So, here we are.
Yes. JD and Aric's podcast.
Yes, sir.
It's us.
It's us once again, folks. And remember, as you've heard in the JD and Aric's podcast, this is an NSFW podcast. It's the experiences of two grown men that are self-employed. So we're going to have some opinions. We're going to have some things to talk about that they may rub people the wrong way. And if that's the case, you probably don't want to follow us. You don't need to try to cancel us. You don't need to try to run after us because we're self-employed. So there's nobody you can call to complain about other than us. And we welcome that. Go ahead. Get at us. Give us an email if you like us. Give us an email if you don't like us. Message us on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and all the rest of them as well, as I'm thinking, yeah.
All right, today we have Kent Estep. Is that how you say it?
It is.
Kent Estep. He is the Senior Technical Effects Director at DreamWorks. How long have you been working there?
I think it's 4 years now.
4 years? Yeah. Awesome. How did you come about working for DreamWorks?
Well, I think it goes back to really how I got into the business originally, and that I started doing visual effects for films. Roughly 1996 was my first job doing that.
Okay.
So DreamWorks just came about because everyone in my industry knows each other. Mm-hmm. So basically we'd go back and forth between different facilities. And I hadn't seen friends of mine that went to DreamWorks because they'd all go to DreamWorks and they would stay at DreamWorks because they liked it so much. You know, they feed us for free, they party all the time. So I'm like, what happened to all my friends I used to know who went to DreamWorks? Oh, they're still at DreamWorks, but I just don't see them.
Yeah.
So then one year my friend said, oh, I think we're going to have a job opening. You're interested, and I thought, all right, well, I haven't seen a lot of you people in 10, 15 years, but I should come and work there and see how it is. And 4 years later, I'm still staying there rather than leaving after 2 years like I thought I would.
Yeah, so the environment was what you wanted, yeah?
It is. It's more relaxed, you know. Doing animation is a little bit different than like feature film work, because feature film work is definitely a lot more crazy.
Okay.
So it's more relaxed, more chill.
Right on. So by the difference in crazy there, you say like feature film work, is it more stringent on hours, or is it like just more hectic deadlines, or?
It's more hectic everything.
Everything.
Like literally they can come in a month before the show is due and say, hey, you know that ending? We're just going to change it all. Or, you know that ending? We shot a new one, so you can just throw out what you've been working on for 6 months, and we're just going to redo it from here. And that's happened numerous times.
That's devastating, isn't it?
It is, but you just come to anticipate that's a possibility that, hey, the client's coming today, they may change everything, and they do test screenings. You know, it's just like animation does test screenings, big budget movies do test screenings as well, so they may come back from a test screening and you just say, this isn't working with the audience, we're changing it all.
Wow. Headbutting my mic here.
Just a bit.
That's awesome, yeah. So you recently moved back to Indiana from Los Angeles. Was that with COVID, or what all kind of pushed you here?
Well, it was just crazy because at first, you know, hey, everyone's going to work from home. You know, I remember the day, Friday the 13th. 2020 it was, I guess.
Yeah.
And they said from now on everyone's just going to work from home. And I just sold my house in LA, had moved into an apartment. So it had been going from, you know, a nice house with a pool to an apartment, which was 1,000 square feet.
And a little boxed in.
Yeah, you definitely do. And the thing is, too, you'd have to take the elevator out to get out of the building.
Oh my gosh.
So you're just thinking, you know, Russian roulette. Is there going to be someone in the elevator?
Waiting.
Had someone been in the elevator? Do I need to hold my breath? So it was just all that stress. And then again, you know, it's a city of 7 million people. So even if you want to try to get outside somewhere, there's someone already there.
Yeah.
So after about a month of that, I was just like, this is too much.
Yeah.
You know, I'm feeling cooped up, and if I stay here, I'm just going to do something stupid because, you know, I need to get out. I need to do things. I'd already started shopping like first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Because I knew fewer people, odds are down, so I could do my shopping and get out of there. And that was my one little outlet to get out in public. So after a while, I'm like, it's just getting too crazy. And I talked to my sister who lives here in Owensboro, and she'd mentioned, she's like, well, if you're feeling really cooped up and things are pretty that stressful, well, you can work out of my garage. I thought, well, if worst comes to worst, I'll do that. And worst did come to worst, and where I just decided, you know what, even though I'm risking a flight, that was less of a risk to me than staying in Los Angeles and, you know, breaking down and like going out somewhere.
Exactly, your health or anything else.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
And I like to point out, the funny thing is, you know, in all of Indiana or all of Kentucky, there's like 5 million people. In Los Angeles County, there's 9 million.
Yeah.
9 million people. And actually, half the county is basically barren desert. So it's even condensed into even a smaller part. So again, if you wanted to go out to the park, there was already people there doing it. The only saving grace we had of that is I had a Jeep where I could pull off into an area where no one could get to and we could be by ourselves, because otherwise there were people. And so I came back and worked with my sisters, and it was a good experience in Owensboro. Again, but it's living at your sister's. You know, how would you like to be in your 40s?
Yeah, exactly.
And you get to move in with your sister, not because of a monetary reason, but just because of a life choice.
Right.
And you're just like, hey, I'm at my sister's. Is this a good thing or a bad thing?
And you want your own space
Yes.
at some point. Yeah, for sure.
You want your own space, and I also wanted my own stuff, because my sister is one, you know, I don't think she'd throw out family photos, but if they were taking up too much space in the garage, maybe. So,
just gone.
exactly. So already I was taking up enough space in the garage.
Yeah.
So I just thought, if I wanted to have more of my stuff and not go to sleep at 9 o'clock at night when she went to sleep,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to have to get my own place. And so that's how we ended up at Santa Claus.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. So you're the senior effects or technical effects director at DreamWorks. What? Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. You can talk.
I didn't want to like scream it.
If she doesn't have a headset on, she's just yelling.
Yeah, I was just like, I just want to make sure y'all know that there was some technical difficulties.
Understood.
That's right, we have a technical guy here.
All right.
Yeah.
We are in the presence
Yeah.
of
Child
giants.
director.
That's right.
Yeah.
He can direct you.
I just heard a shudder and I went, oh no,
It's all good.
that's power down.
We got all these others running. Is this one still going?
At least you know that
Yeah,
your
that
part
one's still
is
going. Good.
full, and next time clear it.
Yes. Lesson learned.
Whoops.
Now we know.
It's okay.
So, for DreamWorks, how many movies from DreamWorks have you worked on?
Right now, I think I'm working on, movie 5. If I go
Nice.
back in time, the first one was How to Train Your Dragon 3, which I think everyone would know.
Yep.
And then I worked on a smaller one called Abominable, which didn't do so well, but was okay. It's like a Yeti movie.
Yeah.
It was out there as well.
Okay.
Then I went to work on The Last Trolls World Tour,
Nice.
and then on to Boss Baby 2, which is just out here in the past week or so. And then now on to a new one called Bad Guys. Can't say too much about it other than the title. And it's based on a kid's book that anyone can get at Walmart. And it's a fun little thing, and I think it's going to be a pretty great show. But to get back to senior effects technical director, all that means is that like I mainly do stuff that's more technically oriented. Where like an animator will do like all the character animation, facial stuff like that.
Okay.
My job more entails stuff that's more technical, like fire, like smoke, like destruction.
Digital, like
Yes.
like overlays of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anytime we need something that's more realistic looking, that's when it throws into our court, because we can make the computers do that rather than, with the character animators, they do that all by hand themselves.
Yeah.
Well, we can rely on more automation because we have programs that can handle water and fire and everything.
That's awesome. And do you guys have like artists like within your groups that make their own specific art out of these programs and stuff, like some of the digital,
For sure.
making digital art and stuff?
Yes.
That they print out or anything?
We do get a few of those too. One guy in particular I actually used to work for creates all of this stuff in the package I use called Houdini, and he makes these kind of really trippy kind of 3D images. Kevin Mack is his name, you can look him up.
Okay.
But he makes all these crazy photoreal kind of blended images that are just super trippy. You get a lot of those guys that try to make that stuff. I'm not an artist at all, believe it or not. I have no 2D art skills. I appreciate art, but I have no artistic ability myself.
So how did that bring you into this?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, yeah.
So my first job out of college, I really loved AutoCAD in college. AutoCAD's what a lot of the engineering firms and the plants around here, Alcoa and everything, use to do their drawings for when they do construction at their plants. So AutoCAD also produced a package called 3D Studio back in the day, which was basically, hey, you can take these 3D drawings and make them into 3D and show people a rendering. It just meant a photo of how it's going to look.
Yeah.
So I love that package a lot. So when I graduated college, I got involved with a company that developed software for that. And I really got into the 3D package, which at the time not many people knew. They weren't teaching it in schools.
Yeah.
So it was very much...
it was right before 3D printing and
exactly.
all that,
And Jurassic Park had just come out.
Oh, okay.
So that was really the spark to like, oh my God, this 3D thing is going to amount to something.
It's going to go somewhere.
So that's when they're like, they sent out the word to anyone that's used this package, we'll hire you. So I ended up in Los Angeles actually working at a video game company. And then within the month, I got hired at my first job in film effects, which was Boss Film Studios, using a very similar package to it. Once you know the fundamentals of 3D, you can translate it. Yes, you translate it to other packages. So I actually made it, like I said, from AutoCAD into 3D and then into 3D for films. It was not really planned. It was just something I really love this. And
just transition naturally. Yeah,
yes.
It's cool. So do you use like, I know Fusion 360.
Correct.
That's kind of the new updated 3D thing for AutoCAD.
It is. And that's, that's kind of cool because you get places that use that for parts. Like I do 3D printing, I have a 3D printer as well. So like Fusion and stuff like that's where you can design a part and then just click a button and either have a rendering of a just 2D picture of it, or you can send it and have it 3D printed if you want to get that part and just see what it looks like in 3D space. It's really crazy to see how the technology has come together.
Yeah, and you can do that all on your iPad. I mean, that's...
Oh, it's crazy. I see people now that, the iPad has a 3D scanner camera, where I've seen people like put an object in front of them and they move their camera around it and they generate a 3D model from it. And just to think, I think...
Oh, how fast.
Exactly. And I think back in the day, there used to be a company, I think they're still around, called Gentle Giant Studios in Los Angeles. And their whole goal was they had this semi-trailer truck that came around to model people. So if you needed someone modeled, like, hey, we need Tom Hanks modeled for Polar Express. Well, the truck would wheel up. Tom Hanks would walk into this truck.
Oh, man.
They would scan his face, scan his body, and you have a 3D thing of Tom Hanks, a model 3D of Tom Hanks that you can use in a movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now,
how much money they made from doing that.
Exactly.
That's
but now,
so quick.
And now it's just crazy. You can do it on
with
your
the
camera.
phone.
Yes.
And that's I've seen that in the tattoo world,
Yep.
because when I started, it was all coil machines. Everything was old school coil machines. They buzz, they're noisy and loud. They got a long needle bar, and then now everything is rotary. You used to have to draw everything by hand. If you wanted that thing sized up or whatever, well, there you go, man. You're going to be drawing for a little bit. Like, that's just how it was.
Right.
The most advanced thing that we used was a copy machine to blow things up a little bit, but everything was by hand. And now, all these artists are just taking all these images, they overlay, create an outline, bam, it's done.
Well, and like your little Bluetooth one or your little cordless one that you did. I think you didn't you do my mom?
Yeah.
Was it my mom with that one?
Like,
and it's completely quiet.
Well, they're battery packs that have a power supply in it they created it's just push button, has different voltage levels.
Right.
And now they have Bluetooth capability where I can connect it to my phone and I can adjust settings on my phone. I mean, that's...
Seeing how technology changes like it, it's just...
and that I've only been tattooing like 13 years. It went from coils to that in 13 years. I mean, So what's the next 13 hold?
Exactly, and that's what, in my field, what's crazy is you don't know what's going to happen. Like I remember when I first started, it's like, man, will the day ever come where I can create digital fire or digital water that no one's going to know? Because the first movie I worked on, Air Force One, there's this horrible, unfortunately, ending to the movie where the plane crashes into the water and it just looks horrible. I know the people worked on it. They're not bad people. I love them all. I did not work on it.
It was probably just the programming at the time as well.
It was, exactly.
Yeah.
But now, I can spot this stuff. So I'll see a commercial or something on TV and I know that's digital, but I can guarantee you 99.99% of the people are out there think it's real.
Yeah.
Wow. And I still love looking at commercials to this day because I've worked in commercials on and off. And trying to guess, is that real or is that something that's created digitally? And now even with fire, like I am just amazed because it's something so complex you would not think computers could handle it, but they're easily being able to handle it.
They're creating such organic, it's organic.
Fractally shapes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's the hardest thing for computers to manipulate. And now what's funny is I see what's out there now is this thing called Unreal Engine. It's basically really changing how Hollywood does things. And everything's real time in it. So what's crazy is now I kept thinking, well, will the day ever come when you can just have a line of dialogue that you just feed to the computer and you tell it, I want a 20-something white guy with black hair and blue eyes to say this line while he's troubled or screaming or something like that. You know what? That's going to happen. I have no doubt in my mind that that's going to happen. Because right now what they have is something called MetaHuman. You can look it up on YouTube. It's the Unreal Engine MetaHuman, where basically it's any kind of human person you want, any race, any ethnicity, any color, and you feed it a library of dialogue and motions that they've already created. And this human will say that.
That's crazy.
And granted,
That makes me think of the bot accounts on Facebook. Like, they even have now the AI is so strong within those bot accounts that they have accounts talking to other accounts on comment sections just to get people's interest in that product.
yes.
It's like insane, man. Like, you're fooling them. Like, you're really getting that's really manipulative. I feel like. I feel like that's almost too manipulative.
I believe that, and what's crazy too is you see how they spot some of these accounts where they can look at an image and go, this was synthesized, this is not a real photo. I don't know how they do that, but I think it's amazing that they can do it.
Yeah.
You know, and I've read quite a bit about, you know, all the deep stuff, the deep learning, deep fakes and deep learning. Deep learning is the big thing now that's coming, where basically you show a computer, you know, millions of images, and from that it learns how to create things. I just don't know where that's going, you know. And it's funny how it crosses into real life too, because that's what Tesla and their autopilot, that's what they do. They record all these images. They don't use radar on their cameras, but they record all these images to know what things look like, and the computer learns, oh, that's this, that's that. I need to worry about this, so I don't have to worry about that.
Recognition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's
limited cognition of a computer. I mean, that's either, but what's that limitation going to end at? You know, like,
especially when,
because even some of those engines, like you're saying, that modulate the fire and stuff. That's they've had to do some incredible stuff to get that. That's like that Rec Infidel. What is this? Ralph Infidel.
Ralph Infidel, basically. Yeah.
He does a lot of. He's got a digital processor, and he puts in like. He did little squares, and it was every color of Rolls Royce ever made, or and it just generates these like waves and just
or they've
incredible organic looking things.
And what's funny is I remember, you know, this is eons ago now. It seems like I want to say probably 25 years ago, but there was this really cool fractal texture kit called Kai's Power Tools, and it would show you like 9 images, and you selected your favorite. And from that favorite, it knew like everything that went into generating an image. It would generate you 9 more that were based on the synthesis that created that image. And you'd select what you thought was the coolest of that. And basically, you know, it's like a selective breeding thing where you choose all the textures you like, and eventually you come to something you really like, and you could use the texture.
That's super cool.
To do that today would be easy, because again, they were doing that 20 years ago. And that's what I think now is just like, for us in film, it's going to be like, all right, I need a sky for this background. You know, it's going to show you like 9 images. You pick your favorite. Maybe that's not it, but then it'll show you 9 more based on that. And you just zero in until you get.
That would help with the creative process. That would streamline too. Instead of, because I go into like when I'm creating my music, I get lost in the sounds. I'm sure you get lost in filters, or you just go one after the other until you're like, oh, that's it. You know? And that would be a way more streamlined and more natural feel to make a custom piece, I guess you would say. But it's also a little AI generated there as well.
It is. You know, it's not purely yours. It's
that's the thing that also the purists get mad at. They're like, that's not human. You know, like that's not you. But then again, is it you? I mean, you're making decisions on what you like. So
yeah, you're still involved in the creative process, even though the AI and the algorithms that, like Kent's saying, when you select one to the next one to the next one, you're still in the process. You may not be pen and paper or, you know, paintbrush, whatever, you know, ancient methods, drawing, etc. to get to that point, but you're still in the process.
And that's, I have a problem adjusting to this new way of doing digital art. Like, it's hard.
Well, I always remember, I thought, to me, even 10 years ago, I'm like, if it's not on some traditional medium, it's not art. You know what I mean? But now, with all the NFTs, the stuff, all the digital stuff that's being sold, okay, I guess digital art is a thing. I guess I can appreciate it, but I'm still going to love the old school stuff. If it's on paper or painted, it's more to me.
That makes sense.
So for you, what creates a good workflow to get you kind of in the groove and get you going? Like, make you get to sail.
It's funny, if you mean like environment-wise, it's funny to me because it's all different. Usually the places I work, we're not elbow to elbow, but close at times.
Yeah.
So I'll see some people that are just watching reruns of Park and Rec aimlessly, or watching reruns of Community, or watching Rick and Morty on nonstop. And I get it because there's some shows I can watch that I've seen so many times.
You'll still rewatch it.
That I'll still rewatch, but it's not affecting my thinking. It's something like, it's not background noise, but it's something uniform that what's happening, and your brain's not gonna kick out and think about it.
Okay.
So now I can't do that. Anything with dialogue doesn't do it. So I usually like really chill ambient music, like
I do EDM a lot.
Exactly, like Soma FM. I'm not sure you've heard Soma FM, but they have a channel called Groove Salad. It's great. I can put that on. It's not obtrusive enough that it interrupts my thinking, and my brain can think without being pulled out of it. Where if I listen to like music I like, my brain's instantly going to be pulled out, and I'm not going to be able to think about it because it'll just start this cascading thing of, oh my God, I remember hearing this song when I was here, or when I was doing this, or when I was doing that, and you're off the horse at that point.
Yeah, I try to be careful with that stuff with him because he'll be editing videos and doing stuff on his phone or the iPad or whatever, and I catch myself going to turn something on YouTube, and I'm like, probably shouldn't do that. Oh no, it's fine. And then I'll catch him watching it and putting it down, and then I'm like, oh gosh, I told you, I'll just watch it on my phone or put some earbuds in.
It's easy to get distracted.
Yes.
Anything with words for me draws me away.
Exactly.
Unless it's like the EDM stuff, it's very simple, like, I want to be with you. Like, that's all it'll say. So I'm like, okay, I can roll with this and keep doing what I'm doing.
Yes.
But if it's like telling a story about their whole life, I can't do it.
It pulls you into it too.
Yeah, I have to stay focused.
Right.
Yeah.
The funnier thing, kind of related to work, kind of not, is that a couple of times during the pandemic I've had to drive cross country, bringing stuff from Los Angeles here to Indiana. And if I listen to music, I will be asleep in a heartbeat. Doesn't matter if it's the middle of the day.
Yep.
The last 2 times, I haven't listened to anything at all on the car for 3 straight days. And your brain just has to think.
Wow. Oh,
I do that.
Yeah, road noise.
And you don't, and it doesn't, my brain thinks, and it doesn't shut off, and I don't fall asleep because it's just thinking about something, and it's worked. It was your music. I know if I put on music, whatever it is, it could be Van Halen, it could be Soundgarden, it could be whatever.
Driving a car with a broken radio for 3 years.
Yeah, there you go.
Occasionally, I'll just throw some earbuds in and listen to my phone, but then I end up just, it's usually just dead silence after hearing phones all day and people talking all day at work. That's what makes it. I'm like, I just want a nice quiet drive.
Yeah.
But usually for me it's like ambient kind of background. Almost EDM, I would say not quite.
Not heavy,
almost
but
there,
something that's chill.
Yes.
I get you. What are some of your favorite projects you've worked on? What's like just something that you actually enjoyed making and had fun with, like maybe the crew and everything?
Well, I gotta say, for the most part, I've been lucky. I think every show has been great.
Really?
And I gotta say, I would say 99% of the time, everyone I've worked with has been great.
That's awesome.
It's just funny. There's a few people here and there you thought maybe they weren't fun to work with, but not really. Mainly.
I think everybody in that field kind of like they realize that
they do.
What they're doing is something that is awesome.
Exactly.
And they're getting to experience something that hardly many get to.
Exactly. And I think unfortunately too, because of that, people will pour a lot more into it than they should.
Okay.
By working extra hours, sometimes unpaid.
I see.
So that can hurt at times. But it's just a camaraderie, when something comes in and it's super hard and it's never been done before, there's some satisfaction in being able to say, I did something that had never been done before. As for some of my favorites, I have to give it about 1 minute. Everyone always anticipates the first thing I'm going to say is Matrix.
Right? Yeah.
Everyone's just going to say, and I can tell you, what made The Matrix great to me wasn't the movie itself. Because the movie itself, believe it or not, I thought was going to suck.
Yeah.
Really?
Because here's the story that's just crazy about it. So, production on The Matrix was shifted between Australia and the United States.
Okay.
In the United States, we're in San Francisco at Alameda Naval Air Station, old base that had been decommissioned. We're in this old hangar. And we would see stuff come back from Australia every night. And I read the script, and I knew the script was very derivative. I've read a lot of sci-fi. So it borrowed from Gibson, a lot of borrowed from Snow Crash, Neil Stephenson. So I knew it was very derivative. But it was very interesting. So you would see dailies, as they'd shoot scenes in Australia, they would come back to Alameda and we'd get to look at them. So one of the first things I saw was, it was Keanu Reeves, and they'd shaved all his hair off because when he gets out of this little pod, he has no hair on.
Yeah.
So it was a thing of him, and he also had lip gloss on, which I thought was kind of weird. But I saw that shot, and I'm like, this is kind of odd. I didn't think it would be like this. And then the next day, I saw the shot where he's in the Matrix, and he's testing the jump, where he falls off the building, and he hits the ground, and it's like this cartoony...
Yeah.
And I thought, what movie am I working on? Because I saw that shot, and I was just like... And there was 3 people there with me who looked at that shot, and we just looked at each other going...
Nobody got it.
Nobody got it, because we didn't know that there was no context with it.
Yeah, you just saw it for what it was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're just like, what is this?
Yeah.
You saw a glossy man jumping from
couldn't
buildings and
imagine.
landing on
Could you imagine no
nothing.
context?
And
Exactly.
it's like,
And the weirder thing is, again, in this one, he had lipstick on. And it was like, why does he have lipstick? Well, they wanted to, anytime the Wachowskis wanted to shoot a shot scene in the Matrix, in the movie when they're actually in the Matrix, they wanted a green cast to it. So if you look at any of the shots when they're actually in the Matrix, it's green. The whole screen is a very little shade of green, whereas when they're in reality, it's normal color.
Okay.
Well, when they'd shoot the characters, it would make your lips look kind of bluish purple. So they had to put red lipstick on them to make it look more
to
natural.
balance the color
That
out.
makes sense.
The
Exactly.
wash.
So
Yeah.
I would see these scenes with Keanu Reeves with red lipstick, and I'm really thinking, what movie am I working on? and granted, it was really cool. It was super fun to work on. The environment there, the place there was great. I could rattle off thousands of stories about that place that were just amazing. But in the end, I thought it was going to be a bad movie because what I had seen was not the greatest. So lo and behold, I left the show. I went back to work at another facility. Get the invite to go to the screening in LA, and I was just blown away. I was like, this is the movie I worked on? I just could not believe it was the same thing. Granted, every piece I'd seen that I'd questioned was in it, but I was like, oh my god, this was like...
What you saw as a whole.
Like amazing.
So really it was basically just the sum of all those individual parts.
Exactly,
made
now
the-
put together. And the funniest thing about it was films are usually advertised at 2 big points, during the Academy Awards and during the Super Bowl. And during the Super Bowl that year, the 2 big movies to advertise were us with The Matrix, and my buddies who worked at Industrial Light and Magic across the bay did Wild Wild West with Will Smith.
Oh, yeah.
And that was assumed to be the big summer movie. Well, if you go back and look, the trailer that ran for The Matrix during that Super Bowl ad was just amazing, phenomenal. And like, the Wild Wild West one was a typical kind of action movie.
Yeah.
So that next Monday, everyone from ILM was calling me because everyone was just like amazed by that trailer. Like, what movie are you working on? Because that looks amazing. And at the time, that's when we were about to finish the show. So that was the first hint that, oh my God, this show may not be a dud.
Yeah.
It may actually be a pretty good movie. And yeah, it was.
It went over well.
It definitely went over well.
That's an understatement.
Yeah,
right?
it carried on for years.
And,
Yeah.
A bit, yeah.
And now I'll tell you the funniest thing, and I tell everyone this. So we got halfway through one of the shots I'm working on, which is the rooftop, which is iconic.
Yeah.
If you go to the Academy Museum right now, they have a bullet time exhibit just to that shot.
Oh, yeah.
So I worked on all the bullet time shots. That was my main duty on the show. And about halfway through, when we were almost done with that shot, we're just like, oh my God, Trinity is not in the shot. But yet 2 shots later, she has the gun to the agent's head to shoot the agent. Well, in our shot, where it spins 360 degrees around the entire rooftop, she is not in the shot. Not in the shot.
Really?
You can go look at it. She is not in the shot. And we joked, we're like, what are we going to do? Do we tell people? So we told them, and they're like, no one's going to care. We're like, all right, we could take a picture. There's a scene earlier with the first bullet time shot where she's being confronted by the cops, and she's in that big lotus, I'm not sure what position it is, kicking position.
Right.
Like, we could just take a card of that and stick it back there in the background. Like, no one's going to notice that she's not in there. And she's not in there. Yet 2 shots later, she's right next to the agent.
Did anybody ever catch it?
No one I know. I tell people that, and they either don't believe me, or again, they don't care.
I wonder. Yeah, it's so subtle.
Some people notice those things right away. And rewind
that
back
goes
to
back
it.
to the finer details of everything. Yeah,
and people don't realize, with any shot, not any shot, but most shots, we can spend months on them.
Yeah.
So I see the same thing over and over and over
and so
over.
every little of everything.
I can still look at that shot and I remember, the smoke coming out of that there's a little shack on the building. I did that in this software program called Maya, or I did this background in Softimage, or I have the photo, all that stuff we pulled from photos of the set. I still have those photos today.
That's awesome.
That's
so,
cool.
I will say that's up there with my favorite movies to work on. Maybe not my favorite, but definitely an experience.
Nice.
Wow.
Aric, is there anything you want to ask the guy? I'm over here full of loaded questions here. So.
Well, you're hitting on all 8 cylinders.
I'm trying to keep it rolling.
Because we've already, talked about basically, like you said, Kent, not coming from a background, let's say high school and college of, I'm going to go to school for art, and then I transitioned into this. It was just the progression that you had, of one thing leading to another, and being an early adopter of that software basically put you in the position where you're at now.
Right. But I will tell you this, and that is, I've worked with tons of people, thousands of people. I've seen people that have come out of school and who have been amazing. I've seen people who've come out of school and been worthless. I've seen people that didn't go to school. I've seen a guy who... Exactly. I've seen a guy who was the receptionist at the first company I ever worked at, who was just an amazing individual who's now a big-time supervisor in the field, because it just clicks with you. You either get it or you don't.
Yep.
And it's just funny because I've seen people like me who are engineers who got it. I've seen artists who got it. It's this weird cross-section of people. And I can't explain why some succeed and some don't. Unfortunately, it is Hollywood, so a lot of people come into it thinking, I'm going to make my mark.
Boy.
This is not yours.
Put all those eggs in one little basket.
Exactly.
Too. And then that basket comes turning up.
Exactly. This is not your movie.
Yeah.
This is someone else's movie. You are just here to do what you were told and to realize someone else's vision. That hurts a lot of people. I didn't realize that, but that can hurt a lot of people. It does not hurt me because I know that's...
You don't put that attachment on it.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, the attachment-wise... So here's another story. Maybe the worst movie, not worst movie, but just bad experience I remember is The Day After Tomorrow. Roland Emmerich, destruction porn is what a lot of people call it, because his career has basically been that destruction movies. So that movie had its trials and tribulations. In the end, it got ripped from the facility I was at, meaning they said, we're not liking what you guys are doing, and we're just going to pull the whole thing away.
It wasn't Jake Gyllenhaal.
No. This is no actors. The actors aren't involved at this stage. No. Actors aren't involved at this stage. So that was probably the worst experience. And it really wasn't that bad. It was more of a political game, and you see that sometimes, but very rarely. And that was probably the only kind of like bad experience.
Yeah.
But still, the movie was fun to work on. We still got some stuff in the movie. I still got a credit on the movie. But it was one of those things where things could have been better, and I feel bad for both sides now. I don't point fingers.
Yeah.
I just know that I understand where both sides came from on that, and what happened. It's in the past.
Yeah.
Well, the wolves ravaging their strip. That was a little.
It was a weird movie. That's another one you see.
I saw that movie so many times. They had us watch it in school. That was last 45 minutes till you go off on spring break, summer break kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or watch it at home, and it was the ice coming in, and they're throwing the books into the fire, and it's like, okay. And the wolves.
And the other funnier story I was going to tell you about every movie I can tell you a funny story about. The funniest story about that one was The day that they told us that the movie was going to be taken from the facility, there was a giant fire in Los Angeles. And we were on the west side of LA, and the only time you really get bad fires is when there's Santa Ana winds, which means the winds are coming from the east, blowing offshore towards the ocean. So it's blowing all the smoke and the ash towards us on the west side. Yeah. So I'm working in Venice, and we're outside on the patio when they gather us together and say, the movie's been pulled from us, we will not be working on this movie anymore. And at that moment I looked up, and the sun was red because of the smoke, and ash was raining from the sky.
Wow.
The end of the world.
The end of the world was
that's
there.
prophetic, isn't it?
and I vividly remember that to this day. I know that patio does not exist anymore. It's now Google Los Angeles. But I remember my spot on that patio and looking up going, the sun is red, there's ash falling from the sky.
Yeah, that's an omen if there was one.
In smoke.
It's not going to start with rain and snow. And
wow.
And I'm trying to think of anything else. Like I said, other favorites? Probably just going to have to think through so many shows now. That's what's amazing.
I mean, how many movies have you done over I mean, your career?
It's weird.
You know?
I would probably say 20.
Okay.
And it's weird because I tell people you don't age in years now, you age in movies.
Yeah.
Because the movie could go on a year, it could go on less than a year. It's just one of those things that's a measurement.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I would say it's probably about 20 now. And again, each one's had its own positives and negatives. As for ones that stick out, otherwise, I loved working at Industrial Light Magic. I worked on the second Men in Black. It wasn't a great one with Jara and the UFO guy.
Yeah.
But still,
it was a fun show. Cool. It was fun to live in San Francisco during that time. It was very a great experience. And I was telling somebody the story the other day. I actually lived in San Francisco, where ILM was across the bay in San Rafael. So to get from where I was living in San Francisco, up on Van Ness Avenue, I would take the cable car down California Street.
That's awesome.
To the ferry building, and then I would take the ferry across the bay.
So it's like an adventure.
It was. And it gets better because as the ferry goes into San Rafael, it slows down because it's a no-wake zone. And as it slows down, you're right next to San Quentin in the prison yard. So you get to go look out and see all the prisoners at San Quentin exercising in the yards
every day.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then when we pulled into the ferry building in Larkspur, I would get in my car, drive back around San Quentin, and back up to ILM, which was around the corner from there.
What they do in San
That's so cool. That's why I want to go back out to the mountains. Like, I want to move back out west. Because I just, like, on the weekends, I want to go see beautiful mountains and just
or the
stuff.
beach, yep.
Pretty stuff. Like around here, it's pretty. It's got its pretties, but
it's a flyover.
It's not beautiful. It is what it is.
I was born and raised here, and I'm like, keep me on the mountains.
My next question I got on here. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
If I only knew, if you'd asked that question 2 years ago and you had told me, like, something from the future fell into my lap and said, here's your address in Santa Claus, Indiana, my brain would have exploded. Would I have a trainer in Ferdinand, Indiana?
Right.
Yeah.
My brain would have, I would think this is obviously a joke. I honestly don't know. Now, what's crazy is to see, we'd always talked in our line of work about when remote work would be possible. So now, obviously, it is possible. DreamWorks has not missed a beat through this whole thing. Production is kept up and actually sped up, I think, in some degrees.
I've heard that with multiple companies.
Exactly. Yeah. So now I think they realize that, hey, this whole remote thing is quite a possibility. And they also realize we can reduce costs by reducing our office footprint as well. But at the same time, in film, there's a lot of collaborative artistic.
Where you guys are next to each other, able to express ideas quick.
Exactly, and I think that matters most for writers, and then it goes down from there. Like writers and creative people that really play off each other, they really need to be together. Animators are also a type that needs to be together because they'll look at each other and say, hey, make this expression, make that expression, do this, do that, run around. They need to see each other. They already have mirrors at their desk. Have you ever seen an animator? Have you ever seen a picture of a desk at Disney or DreamWorks for animators? They will have a mirror on their desk,
really?
So they can,
exactly what you're talking about.
So they can make their expressions and see themselves make that expression in the mirror. So that's how they. Oh, what does a smile look like? And you can smile, look in the mirror. Because I thought for a long time, they're just spying on seeing who's behind them. No, it's
yeah.
not it. They're not that type of person. They're there to look in that mirror and make an expression and see
But
what it
I'm
looks
sure
like.
there are some people that sit there and are
There are.
and they have somebody
Yes.
that goes, hey, add this to it.
Yes,
Or,
yes.
Yeah.
But and so now those types need to be together. I'm falling down in the category where maybe we need to be together, but maybe not, because I know maybe a quarter of my department doesn't want to go back.
I mean, what if maybe they did like think tanks, like where you guys did get together maybe once a month?
And see, that's I think the big thing now. We already have some remote software engineers who don't need daily exposure to us.
Yeah.
Who basically will come to the facility a week a month or a week every 2 months.
Yeah.
To kind of download, brain share.
Be efficient, man.
Yes.
Like that, it does. It just seems way more efficient than fill up an office full of people
Exactly.
and make them all miserable. You know.
Yeah, make them commute an hour each way in traffic. Yes.
Yeah. Make them live in an
Yes.
expensive area. Yeah.
And I already know the people there that they're not coming back. They're going to stay where they are at all costs.
Oh, if
Really?
it's money
Yes.
ahead, I'm sure.
It's money, but it's also just quality of life. Again, like where I was commuting from why I sold my house was, I was spending, literally 15 hours a week on the road.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things too, when you get home, you just need to decompress for maybe 30 minutes to an hour. Well, by the time you decompress and you have dinner, it's maybe 9 or 10 o'clock and it's almost thinking it's time to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And it's not something I
just
deal
feel like you're
with.
living Groundhog's Day.
Exactly,
It's
right.
exactly.
That's fun, let me tell you.
Yeah, the treadmill, and you just don't want that.
Yeah.
So, but as for me, what I'd hope is I could spend a month here, a month there.
There you go.
When there's thunderstorms, I'll be in Indiana. When there's earthquakes, I'll be in Los Angeles.
There you go.
And
You
who
want to
knows
be there
between-
for that?
Oh yeah,
Oh my
Kidding me?
goodness.
You don't want to be here for when we have the big one.
yeah, Madrid or whatever. No, earthquakes. They're just
Make sure
not
you're
a big
over
one.
this way when San Andreas gets
Yes,
a little.
I don't want a
frothy.
big one, but the small ones are great. It's like a roller coaster you can't get off of. It's very, very enjoyable if you know you're not going to die.
And how many
Indiana's
floors
had a
up?
few.
Yes.
How many floors up did you live?
Well, the most I've been up during a decent sized quake was I was working near LAX on a kind of cool movie called Brothers Bloom, who Brian Johnson did. He did Looper. He did unfortunately.
Oh, man, I love
he,
Looper.
he unfortunately did kind of the forgettable new Star Wars, the middle one.
See,
I don't even want to tell you the name.
Even,
But he also did Knives Out, great
New
movie.
stuff, old
Knives
stuff, Star
Out.
Wars.
Knives Out with Daniel Craig, the whodunit. It's a murder mystery. He did a great movie. You haven't
Okay.
seen it. And anyway, we were 5 floors up in a steel frame building, which steel frame buildings will shake. They're safe to shake and they will shake. So basically,
So
it
they just
shook.
oscillate the whole
They
time?
oscillated.
Yeah.
So it was a 5.0 magnitude quake, not too far away. But I could look down this hallway of maybe 200 feet and see bends. You could see
Yeah,
the
well,
wiggle.
Isn't that?
man.
Isn't that how they like?
They're meant to do that. Steel frame
that's how
buildings
they
do that. They can take that vibration. But to me, I decided, the thing is called Feet Don't Fail Me Now. Sure enough,
Yeah.
I went straight down the stairwell. I get outside and I realize the building is still shaking. Now I'm 5 stories down next to a glass building and a cinder block wall. Why did I leave that building? But that was probably the craziest I've been on.
That's crazy.
There's been
Yeah.
bigger quakes nearby that would shake water out of my pool, but nothing.
Wow. The
Wow.
only thing I've ever kind of encountered kind of like that is stratosphere in Vegas.
Right.
I felt that thing. Yeah, when you go up there, you feel the roller coaster and
Yes.
stuff moving it.
Mhm.
Other than that, no, I've felt a few small quakes here.
Yeah, here the mine, I remember when
The
they
coal
closed
mine used
Coal
to,
mine,
yeah,
yeah.
all the time.
Yep.
But,
Yeah.
But to answer the final question, where I'll be in 5 years, I
yeah,
really don't know, but I tend to think it's somewhere between here and there. Probably
you go, yeah.
splitting time.
that's
Yeah.
cool though. Yeah.
So in its own way, everything with COVID, especially like with your industry, like I said, it's changed to where now there's that potential, at least, for some people that are involved in the filmmaking process, they don't necessarily have to live in LA. That they can go back home, do what they need to do occasionally if they need to buzz back, for something. It's not, look, if you're not living here, basically you don't have a job.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Pretty cool.
Definitely, yeah.
I know a lot of the factories there in Jasper. They're all of their office people. They pretty well went with the home.
Mm-hmm.
They're letting a lot of them work from home now. I know a lot of us. So it's cool that they had this happen for that effect where they're like, wait, we can mitigate cost and these people's quality of life is
better.
improved.
Yes.
And that's cool that companies are actually taking quality of life over profits. They're showing some sign of compassion for the people that they have making their money.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a thing too, especially, Kent, like talking about with your industry, that you can do it remotely, but there's something to be said too, like we've talked about before, having everybody, going out afterwards, or everybody wants to go have dinner and have drinks. It's a tribal mentality that we've talked about on the podcast quite a few times. We look for people that we vibe with, and if it's people that we work with, X number of hours of the day, if we know them outside of work, those bonds really do become so much deeper, and that's something about the impersonal nature too of, being away from everybody who's involved in something that you go, maybe I do kind of need to be around them a little bit, or,
That'll break down a little bit, I think, that way.
Yeah.
But again, I think maybe if, X number of days a month, everyone comes in and has a party like DreamWorks, we had parties all the time, you know what I mean? When a movie came out or something, we just have a party day, everyone would go nuts and party. It was a great way of team building.
Yeah.
Maybe they do that same thing, but it's timed with when everyone's visiting campus so everyone can be back together again.
Right.
So, can you explain to me how this works? Like, okay, let's say a director has the idea of this movie. Does he approach DreamWorks, and then you guys are like subparts of DreamWorks, and it just kind of disperses down from there? Or how does the film industry work in that aspect?
I can tell you how I think it works, and I'm pretty sure this is how it does it. So usually they'll have their own directors they like.
Okay.
So those directors can go out and find stories they want to develop and then bring them to DreamWorks. And if they're good enough, DreamWorks will say, all right, we'll set up a pod, which is basically a little production development unit.
Okay.
And if it comes to fruition, it comes to fruition. If it doesn't, they just shut it down and
move on.
The other way is maybe DreamWorks themselves buys a project and they just decide, hey, let's try to find a director that'll do this project and we'll go from there. And I think this is how any animation, Disney works this way, any of the animation places work this way, Skydance or whatever. And so basically, it's a way of weeding things out. So once they develop the idea, it gets tested, the executives look at it, and they decide, oh, this one looks good, this one doesn't look so good, we like this one, but change this. They'll come back with various little answers to it. And it could be, again, we don't like this at all, just forget it. We like this, change this, or, oh my God, we love it, let's make it.
So how often do you think maybe really awesome ideas might accidentally get shoved aside just because of somebody's personal interest?
I definitely think that happens more than not at a lot of facilities.
Okay.
But again,
to kind of keep the train on a certain set of tracks.
Exactly. Again, they want to aim for the middle of the road, unfortunately, in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
They don't want extremes. Sometimes they will take chances, and I think lately, like Spider-Verse, have you seen Spider-Verse? That really paid off.
Oh my gosh,
that was really a chance.
That was amazing.
That was a chance that was taken, and I
did Spider-Verse.
Yeah. So people now, facilities will see that and decide, all right, maybe we need to think outside the box and go that way.
Yeah.
Now, what's funnier is I would think of all the projects to create, maybe only 20% go all the way to fruition. Most
really
don't make it.
Wow.
It's just one of those things. And again,
so like, sorry to cut you off, but like, how much time would they waste on an idea?
It could be months. I wouldn't say years.
They would kind of keep it in a margin.
Yeah, because they'll go from like maybe 3 or 4 months, and they'll have a bunch of artists on it. They'll develop the artwork. Wow. They'll develop characters.
That's a lot of effort, man, from a lot of people.
It is, but it's still cheaper than try to take something all the way that's not
and
good.
Then not, and bomb it.
And bomb it, because we've seen a bunch of those. There's been a few lately that I've just been...
I tell you though, in the last few years, it's been kind of like hit and miss with some stuff.
Yes. And that's what I think they're trying to weed out. But now, again, with Spider-Verse being so successful, there's just this whole crop of movies that have come up that, are trying to emulate it, to trying to... they're taking more chances. So I think we'll see good stuff come from that.
Sorry. I'm bad about I'm like, oh man, he's talking to me and I've got good ideas. But yeah, that Spideyverse, like, That animation on that was incredible. I think was that all done on Procreate, or a majority of it, or
that I don't know. You know, for the 2D animation thing, they have a bunch of little programs to do it.
Yeah.
There's another one called Toon Boom that does that stuff as well. It was, you know, a combination of 3D as well. So a lot of people that I work with at Sony, I used to work at Sony.
so you
did a lot of work.
People that did a lot of work.
Winning Stories actually went to the wrap party for Spider-Verse. It was pretty
Oh,
nice.
really?
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
52 floors up in downtown Los Angeles. They decorated every room as different scenes from the movie.
Oh, man.
It was pretty an epic one, and I gotta say they deserved it, because I gotta say I didn't know what to think as I heard from friends while they were making that movie. I knew the directors because I'd worked on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, so those two directors were heavily involved, and
Good movie.
yeah, I knew they were great guys. They were awesome guys. So I was kind of hesitant at first. I thought it was going to be a good movie, but it was a great movie. No, I love it.
Yeah.
Film noir, Spider-Man, Nicolas Cage. You know, there's so many little aspects, little things hidden in that movie that I just loved that. So yeah. I mean, I'm happy too that it's kind of influenced the industry enough where I don't want to say too much about the show I'm working on, but I think it's a little bit influenced by that. At least the risk taking is maybe influenced by
Getting
that.
a little out of the box. Huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
so I do like that
Cool.
because we're going to see cooler things because it succeeded.
Nice, yeah. I love seeing that though. Because go back to Spideyverse, it just blew me away at how different it was. You know what I mean? I think more of the shock value of just, holy cow, this is totally different than anything I've seen was what got me more than anything. So
Exactly.
it'll be awesome to see people advance off that, and that's really all it is like people just make emulations, you know.
Yes,
of
and this is a way of breaking that. That's what's nice, is that this has broken that mold.
Yes.
And now people will start to think again.
All the bubbly figures of every movie that's been made the last 10 years. All the little perfect round shapes.
Exactly. What's this toy going to look like? We don't know. Where along comes Spider Pig, and you're like, all right, that character is obviously invented, no matter toy or not. That was just a great character.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'm singing it, thanks.
Yeah,
You got it
right?
in your head,
Yeah.
So what would you say, you know, for people that if they had the aspirations to do the same job that you're doing, you know, what would, after all of your experience, everything that you've been through, and obviously with kind of a quote unquote non-traditional path, you know, of not being an artist to begin with, what pearl of wisdom or what kind of advice would you give somebody if they said, you know what, I think I want to do that, that sounds cool?
Well, the first thing is every package I use at work, you can just go download right now for free. Free.
Oh, wow.
They
No
want,
kidding.
yes, because they want you to know it. The more people that know their software, the more people that are going to, more licenses they will sell.
Wow.
So I would
okay.
say the first thing to do, you know, the package I use is called Houdini from Side Software. You can go download it. You can go to YouTube and you can search for videos about it. They're all out there. I even go to YouTube when there's something that I need to relearn.
Yeah.
I will go to YouTube and relearn it and look at it.
Yeah.
The other funny thing is, and this is the strangest thing about, I think, my profession, believe it or not. Basically, 80% of what I knew 2 years ago doesn't matter anymore. Or actually, longer than that. 80% of what I knew 4 years ago doesn't matter anymore because the software has completely changed.
Yeah.
So basically, every 4 years, everything that most of what you know is gone again.
Oh, man.
And you have to relearn it.
Just start over.
Exactly.
Wow.
But it keeps you on your toes. And again, anyone that wants to get into the thing, they've got the same, almost on the same level I am. So that's the thing. So if you go out there and, you know, I can name all the packages. Side Effects Houdini. I also use one from the Foundry called Nuke, which is the compositing package, which every major video facility uses and every major motion picture action uses.
Wow.
Again, for free. You can learn it for free, yes. And Maya, Autodesk Maya is the software we use mainly for animation and modeling. Again, you can download trials or educational versions for free. And it's just, you know, they want you to learn it.
Wow.
And there are tutorials out there on YouTube, or Vimeo is another
they're
site.
wanting people in their garages to be, or people like in their houses, they want them to be learning.
They totally, because it means more licenses sold.
Wow.
And again, I think, you know, people that you can just put it in your YouTube videos if you want. Like, I'm amazed.
When they sell the license, what's that mean? That means they're selling.
That means DreamWorks has paid them $10,000 for that license.
Okay.
So that's how they're making the money.
Okay,
So,
I got
and
you.
we have, you know,
to be able to use that for
Hundreds
their
of
production,
licenses,
they
yes.
have to pay for the license.
Exactly. And we have hundreds of those licenses.
Oh.
And they have to be, it's a subscription thing, so every
Yeah.
year you have to redo it.
Oh,
So
man.
they want the people to learn
They
it
do it
because
on a 12-month cycle?
yes, so they want the people to
Wow.
learn it so they can sell those licenses.
Dude.
And again, even
the
if you
tech
don't,
industry is
yeah.
so genius.
and I was gonna say, even if you didn't want to get into the business, you can use it to do great YouTube stuff. Like there was a buddy, I don't know him, but he did these Target ads. Have you seen the Target ads where the kid goes around Target and he's like imagining that he's like shooting all these like arrows at scenes and everything?
Yeah.
Well, that was a guy who did visual effects and just did that for the fun of it for his kid on the side. And an ad agency saw that and just said, "Oh my God, we want to put that in a Target ad." So he was just doing it so people could do that just to do YouTube videos of it.
So like, yeah, you could just have these people doing TikTok videos with their edits, and then a film company be like, "Holy shit, man, look what this guy did!" And
Exactly.
Boom.
Yes.
Wow.
Branding yourself
And that's
getting yourself out
literally,
there.
it's just putting your content out there. Move
Exactly.
it.
And again, every package that I use, we have some custom software, but most is out there for free and available that you can just grab off the internet.
Dang. All right. Well, this next question will lead right into that. Something you wish somebody would have told you before you began your career that could have helped you excel even faster. Something maybe that you looked right over and it could have sped it up a little for you.
I don't know the answer to that question offhand. However,
I know it's a big.
There's no hacks, in other words. Then.
well, I
Yeah,
could
like-
tell you a kind of related one. So, to do all the computer stuff we do,
Yeah.
we have a whole farm of computers. Basically 1,000 of computers that sit in a room that just think about our pictures. You know what I mean? It's rendering my image of a sub crashing on the ice or something like that. Well, a lot of times those machines are dormant. They're just sitting there waiting for us to jump on them. Well, I had a friend who, when these machines were dormant, would happen to mine something called Bitcoin.
Dang.
Wow.
How much could he mine on them things?
Let's just say it was more than your wildest dreams back in the day.
Oh no! Man.
And a few of us had it because we know to buy some of the software that you wanted to buy, you had to buy pirated software to learn how to use it before they realized if we just kicked out educational versions and you could download it for free, you know, back then they didn't do that. They would just, no, you have to buy it. It's the only way you're going to use it. So you could buy pirated versions that you had to pay in Bitcoin. So we would go to my friend who happened to be mining Bitcoin on the machines at work and say, hey, can you sell me 500 Bitcoin? So my message to the past would have been, don't spend that Bitcoin on pirated software. Instead, just
Sit on it.
Just hang on to it.
Just hang on to it
Diamond
forever.
hands.
Yes.
Diamond hands.
Right. As for actual useful stuff, I gotta say there's not much because there's nothing really you could have learned in advance that would have helped you. It's
That's
just
true. Because in
it's
your
changing
field-
so much that there's right now when we use voxels. Voxel is like, you know what a pixel is? Well, voxel is a volume version of a pixel. So rather than a 2D, like a pixel is here, a pixel is here, a pixel here, a voxel is here, 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 here. It's a 3D pixel.
Gotcha.
But again, that really didn't exist 10 years ago. So if you told myself 10 years ago, hey, learn all you need to know about voxels, I'm like, what the hell's that?
Yeah,
I wouldn't have
right.
known. But then 5 years, 6, 7 years ago, someone decided, hey, we need this thing called a voxel. Bam.
So really, like you said, since there's no hacks other than learn the programs that are going to change. Obviously, like you said, every couple of years it's completely, turned itself inside out and advanced that far. That's pretty amazing, really.
Nuts.
Yeah, it is.
It keeps you on your toes too. That's the other funny
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
It's that, since I graduated with a degree in engineering, I still talk to my friends who work around here in various engineering firms. And pretty much what they've done hasn't really changed, Maybe in 20 years it's changed 10%.
Yeah.
Whereas the stuff I knew 20 years ago is all gone. Long flushed out of my brain and forgotten and replaced by new stuff.
Right.
So it does keep you on your toes, but at the same time you're just like, it's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds like a dream job.
Yeah, right.
It can be at times, that's for sure. I've lived a few nightmares, so.
Yeah.
Well, I can only imagine the stresses of deadlines and stuff, and knowing the amount of work you had ahead of yourself for certain things.
Yes.
Where you're like, because I've been in that position as well with tattooing. I've put way too much of myself a few times where I'm
Right.
like, I give a guarantee that I'm having a hard time holding up to, and it's like, oh God, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah,
And because in your line, I'm sure that goes back with your reputation. They're like, well, he's going to tell you he can get it done, but it'll be a week late.
Exactly, and unfortunately, it's such a tight-knit community that if you're exposed as one of those types,
Everybody knows everybody.
Get pushed out.
Yeah.
And so that's when I've been lucky because, I was just looking at my demo reel the other day, and I haven't updated my demo reel in like 10 years because I haven't had to, because I know all the people I work with, and I just say, hey, you guys have a job? And they're like, yeah, you can come work for us. It hasn't been where, can we see what you do? No, because we know you, and everyone knows you, and you're good. Whereas, you can't have people who ask me, hey, what about so-and-so? And I'm just like, I keep my lips shut, and they're like, all right, we know.
What about a new guy coming in, though, into the field? Like, how do they get in?
Well, we do good at picking people. So, like, the DreamWorks and other places, they'll do apprenticeship programs.
Okay.
Where basically they'll bring in 30 people out of school, they'll train them, see which ones work, keep those, unfortunately let go of others. So that's the way of bringing in new people. And it works pretty much. I mean, there's a couple of big schools that kick out people SCAD. Savannah College of Art and Design is a big place now that does it. A lot of universities now. Texas A&M has a big computer graphics program. Ohio State has a big ancient computer graphics program. That's great. But mainly, it's still something you have to see people and see what they can do and see what their mindset is, because some people, again, they come in with different visions for their job.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a filmmaker now. I can do what I want to do. No.
I'm going to run into all these celebrities.
Exactly. I'm going to run it. It's going to be so sexy. It's not that.
In with ego, or they come in with
check
some finesse.
Exactly. Check the ego at the door, because it's not your movie.
And that's the thing I tell everybody about tattooing. I'm like, dude, if you get a big head on your shoulders about what you're doing, there's going to be somebody knock you off that pedestal. When you go to a tattoo convention, you may think you're the best when you walk through that door, but I guarantee you, there's one or two guys in there that are going to make your tattoos look like dirt.
Yes.
And it may not be that one. It may be the next one, but there's going to be somebody knock you off your pedestal.
Exactly. And that's what I see. Even I've dealt with it where I've seen kids come out of school that I know are going to be far better than I am. And I'm not going to hold them back. The thing is, you're going to help that and get it going.
I want to join them.
Exactly.
I want them to be on my team, because when I need help, I want to know I've got them on my side.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Why would you want enemies?
And you want to see what they can accomplish rather than try to hold them back or to badmouth them or something like. No, you want to see what they can do. And I knew people that worked with J.J. Abrams when J.J. Abrams used to be just an artist at one of the facilities I used to work at. And again, you see people like that who've gone in to do great things. That's when you want to make sure that's admired and supported and fostered, rather than some people in Hollywood will poo-poo that and try to hold them back. That's not what
Yeah. You get people with huge egos, and they want to feed that thing. It's a monster.
It sounds like, though, in your industry, you're part of the big Hollywood persona and myth that there's a lot more cooperation, whereas obviously the public perception of, oh, well, everybody in Hollywood is an aspiring actor, but they're, also a waiter or a waitress. They're never going to make it. Like my small experience with doing independent movies, I was never of the opinion like, well, I don't really have a classical trained background, in theater and whatnot. So if I'm doing independent movies, I'm not going to tease myself and think that I'm going to get a call for some, some major movie. But yeah, it sounds like at least the section, of Hollywood the Hollywood industry that you've been exposed to, there's going to be egos, and I'm sure, like you said, they don't last very long. But with that being in mind, it doesn't sound like there's really a lot of turnover, in your industry, like people that actually do it and are good at it, love it, stick with it, etc.
There really isn't. It's more people exiting by choice.
Sure.
And the only reason I think that's happened to some degree is, again, when I got into this industry, I kept thinking, like I said, will we ever be able to do smoke or fire with the computer? Well, now you can. And now you can generate everything. Every show, even TV shows now, do so much digitally that the workload for artists like me has just 10x'd, 100x'd from where it was 10 years ago. Because every small TV show, like I have friends that work at CBS, worked on the Star Treks, and every little cop show or law enforcement show, those shows have effects.
Is there anything that you wish you could do with effects that you can't?
Yeah.
Right now, that's the crazy part.
I mean, yeah, you're at that level
You
now.
just-
It's so close.
You can do anything. I mean, just the destruction that we can do now, like buildings coming down and everything. It's just, the more complex the issue, the computers still seem to be able to solve it.
Really?
So it's just nutty that we're pushing it to its limits. And now, what's funny is that we're pushing it to do things that I never thought we'd do. Basically, we're writing, not to give away something, but we're trying to get the computer to do something that a 2D artist would do. And someone drawing something by hand would do. And I did not think we would be capable of doing that.
Re-emulating.
But I see the results, and I could show you something you'd think, a 2D artist must have drawn that, like a Bugs Bunny kind of thing.
Sure.
Not a character, but something other effects-wise.
Yeah.
And the computers, we've done it. Effects artists have done it with the computer, because we're not 2D artists.
Right.
But you would look at that and think, a 2D artist did that. No, it's us doing that.
So
it's kind of a frontier we're pushing. But there's nothing now, unfortunately, without
Really?
outside
Ask
its
him
realm.
again in a few years.
Yeah.
And he'll be
Now
like,
it's
guess
just
what? Going back to
experimental.
that.
I mean, yeah, it's
Right.
really just how far can we take the envelope now? I'm like, let's just
Exactly.
try and make everything.
Yes.
I was on Lifty. I
That's
got
crazy.
mints in my mouth.
Yeah. And what's funny is the other thing too is now I have friends that are working on the new avatars.
Yeah.
And I see everything that comes out of there, and it just looks amazing. But it doesn't amaze me anymore, kind of like the first one did, where everything was digital, because it's been done.
Yeah.
So I just think, all right, what is the next big barrier that's pushed that makes me think, wow?
Yeah.
I can't think of what that would be. Before I would say an all digital environment with all digital humans, well, we've done that.
Right.
Any number of Avengers movies have done that.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's human all around, like we always, once you, like I said, with the Spidey universe, I was so blown away with how new and different it was. But then if they did a second one, I probably wouldn't be as attuned to be like, oh, well, this is totally awesome out there.
Exactly.
Same thing with, I don't know, like the Batman movies. I mean, you name which one. One of those movies struck somebody a certain chord, and that's their Batman movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
But now, that's the thing, I go back to my superhero thing. I never thought I'd tire of superhero movies. I kind of, and the first time I saw Iron Man, I'm like, I'll never get tired of seeing Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I kind of did in the end. And there's just nothing, what comes next? I don't know. So.
And when they whipped Deadpool out near the
Yeah.
end of all of it, I was like, finally, the guy that I want to hear,
The guy.
Yes.
yeah, I wanted to hear some wittiness and some real good jokes. And they picked a perfect person for that.
Well, that's like with our phones. Like, you think back, like when you play the Wii and you make your little avatar and you try to make it look just like you.
yeah.
And then, like, mine and his phones with the Bixby stuff that's on there, you pull it up and
It looks
it takes a
pretty
picture
dang,
of
yeah.
you, and
Yep.
mine is set to, it looks exactly like me. I did not alter anything. I'm like, that is terrifying, but
Yes.
also so cool.
Right.
How it just like says, oh, here's your face, and this is what we think you look like, and here's your avatar. And I'm like, okay, I'll change your hair
Right.
color, eye
Yeah.
color, eye shape, lip shape, nothing.
Yeah.
So when you're not working, do you still feel like, if you sit down and watch a movie, obviously you're going to pick things apart, you're going to go through like, oh, I see this looks a little,
I try not to do that. Yeah, I'll let you finish the question.
Oh yeah, I mean you've pretty much already established with us the point that when you do watch movies or anything that you watch, commercial, etc., that there's going to be a little bit of a tendency for you to pick things apart because of your experience. So do you feel that when you just decide I'm going to chill out and watch something, do you get so, I guess, basically disconnected from that you are able to enjoy the movie just for the sake of whatever it is? Can you be entertained by a movie even though you're in the
Yeah,
industry?
Can you
since,
disconnect yourself
like,
from
yeah.
watching?
because tattoos to me,
Right.
they're tattoos now. You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean, but there's still ones I love to death.
Yeah.
There's a few that I started watching before I got in the industry, and there's some that I watched that I worked on actually. One example, oh my God, I watch Starship Troopers every day. I had to
I've been to Hell's Half Acre.
Exactly, there you go.
I lived in Casper. I drove down there and checked it out, man.
Yep.
That is so cool.
Yeah, you know, it's something I could watch every day, the big battle there.
Yep.
It actually worked kind of only very small, stupid little things on that movie. But I worked at Tippett Studio, who did all the bugs and everything. Phil Tippett's very famous stop motion animator. Worked on the original Star Wars with another friend of mine. A bunch of friends who worked on Star Wars, actually. But anyway, he's one of them. And I could watch that movie over and over. You know, the bugs are just so amazing. The first time I saw that movie, I was just in awe myself. And I still think it's that thing of, all right, we could do that today. But I remember seeing that for the first time, and it just awed me so much that anytime I watch it, it takes me back.
It takes you back, yeah.
To that. So I can watch, and again, it's Paul Verhoeven, it's total cheese, and I love it. Now, the other one like that I can watch over and over, happens to be another Verhoeven movie, and that is Total Recall, Schwarzenegger.
Oh, yeah.
I could watch that show endlessly, and actually I did because, I can't remember when that came out, but it was when VHS tapes were around, not the day myself.
Yeah.
And my mom bought
Hey, I was
me...
around for that. Finally, something you said.
And my mom at Easter bought me a copy of that movie because there was a $20 movie.
Yeah.
And we started watching it, and she left after like, how many people died in this movie? Because you know everyone's died. I watched that movie I think until that tape broke, and I could still watch that again today. You know, it's got great model work. There's very little digital in it. Actually, there's a bit of digital for Metrolate when he goes to the scanner.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bit of digital in there. But it's just an amazing movie. Again, I remember it before I got in there. And another one I'll tell you, there's many. The other one is Twister. My God, I could watch Twister forever.
Dude, yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I could. The year before I got a job in the industry, I was off that summer, and that movie was at the $2 theater. I must have seen it at least 10 to 20 times in the theater.
Pretty sure I grabbed that at Blockbuster.
Yes,
Yeah.
I could watch that movie over and over. Again, not the greatest movie, although it does have Philip Seymour Hoffman and some great actors in it.
Yeah.
I think Bill Paxton, my
Bill
God.
Paxton, yeah,
My
absolutely.
God, you know, but I could watch that movie endlessly, and I still do. If it comes on, you know, and again, it could be non-effects movies, like, you know, there's movies we all have.
Yeah, is it more, are you going
no.
more for plot, or are you going for story?
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
Yeah.
And again, there's other ones that, like, movies that I won't change the channel on, like Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction comes on, I'm gonna watch that to the end. You know, again, there's no effects in it, but again, I'm still a movie buff. I will still watch ones like that have no effects.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because you pay more attention.
exactly. Yes, there you go.
Like Clerks.
Yeah, Clerks,
Yeah, oh,
exactly.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that was like, what was their budget on that? I don't
Yeah.
remember what he said. It
And-
was,
Put that money in
it
your
was
hand.
stupid.
Yeah. And last night I was rewatching. I had the choice last night. I was gonna watch a movie, and I decided I was feeling kind of weird. My choices were Kingpin,
Okay.
Bill Murray.
Good one, yeah.
Woody Harrelson,
Yeah.
whatever, from the same directors. The other one was Something About Mary. I went with Something About Mary.
Yeah,
Again,
I've
just-
seen something about Mary for a long
Oh,
time.
God. There's,
Yeah.
It's on my list. You know, I have my list of movies that every year I'll usually rewatch. Those are on there. All the ones I've named, Star Trek Troopers, probably more than once a year. You know, it's just movies that are so great that just make me, not inspire me, but just make, oh my God, I work on movies. I love these movies.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to hear that, you know, your suspension of disbelief still exists,
Yes.
even though you've been exposed to that many years of it, you know. Yeah, it hasn't taken away that spark,
Right.
you know, that you had before you were ever in the industry.
Yeah.
That
And I
I
guess-
like being entertained.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I can't think of any movies I've worked on in any capacity. You said I've barely worked on Starship Troopers. I mean, just stupid little things.
Yeah.
No movies I don't think I've worked on have fit into that category. I do not think. Not off the top of my
There's
head.
so much.
Was there any movie you worked on where you were like, holy shit, I'm really working on this?
Yeah, were you
It
in
was
awe
just
of
like,
anything?
Holy
you were like,
shit, me
oh,
with the
where you had
movie.
like a little fangirl moment where you're like, all right, this is pretty freaking cool.
I fangirled when I found out about a movie he was
Right.
working on.
You can tell it to me. I'll let you know.
Well, it was Fast and Furious and
No,
Boss Baby.
no,
Those ones, I was like,
no.
yeah.
He's like,
when
come
I
on,
fangirled
come
about
on.
just knowing
I
that,
will-
I'm like, you did this and
I will
this and
say,
this.
I did like Boss Baby because the director, he's a great guy. Tom McGrath,
I
awesome
really
dude.
love that show. Just, it's hilarious as an adult too.
It is.
Like it's got so much good adult humor hidden in there.
Exactly. And I
Oh.
had never watched it until I started working on the second. And when I watched it, I realized why now I would not show it to my kids if I had younger kids, because it definitely encourages talk about it. But it was funny. I love that movie.
Oh yeah.
Like Puppy Co.
That's
and everything.
only
It
if
was
you
just
got
great.
those kinds of kids,
yes.
though.
I
you know,
died
that-
laughing.
Yep, and again, working on the sequel, the director is a great guy. Everyone all around at DreamWorks is awesome. He especially is a great guy. What's funny is I'd see him every morning before I knew who he was, because downstairs I'd always have my spot I go to get my coffee or water in the morning. My favorite kitchen, because every floor has a kitchen. And there was this guy down there who'd always talk to the cleaning staff, and I talked to the cleaning staff guys too, because they hang out down there. And I'm like, very few other people would talk to them because they're the cleaning staff. Who's gonna talk to them? Well, I would always say hi and chat them up. It was great.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's this other guy who always talks to them too. And I'm like, who's that other guy? Well, it's Tom McGrath, the director of Boss Baby. But it was great. We're all down there chatting in the mornings.
Yeah.
It was all totally fun. But now, I don't know. It's another tough question. In awe, the thing is, you check that at the door.
Yeah, and you seem to be very grounded.
Exactly,
like, yeah.
and here's the reason why. So the first place, and this could be its own thing itself. The first place I worked at was Boss Film Studios. Well, Boss Film Studios was owned by Richard Edlund. Richard's still around. I think he's chairman of the Academy right now. So Richard's claim to fame was he did Star Wars. He did Empire Strikes Back.
Nice.
And then he decided I didn't want to live in Northern California, so he moved back to Los Angeles to work on a little show called Ghostbusters. And he also did Die Hard. And he did so many of these crazy movies that, you'd be sitting there, and the first time I met him, I'm like, oh my God, you just have to, any sense of awe or whatever has to be checked at the door, because else you'd just be the doe-eyed kid forever. Yes, and then I remember he would hire, people that he worked with to work around the company. So one day some dude's changing lights next to us, and my guy's like, do you know who that is, right? I'm like, no, I don't know who that is. Oh, the guy's name's Bill Klinger. He's a famous pyrotechnics guy. He did all the pyrotechnics for all the Star Wars. And the vivid one I can always remember is he did the Return of the Jedi. If you remember the trees exploding when the speeder bikes are shooting and everything.
Okay.
Well, that's all him. That's all Bill Klinger.
That's
and then he's changing a light bulb, but just because when they're not working on movies, he's got downtime, he works around the building. Just amazing, so many amazing guys around there. Dave Jones is another guy I worked with there. Designed and built the Millennium Falcon. And when you're around people like that, you just have to literally. And there's another one who worked I would always go talk to the model shop guys, even though at the time computers and models were kind of at each other's throats, because computers are eventually going to kill that off.
Yeah.
But one of the guys over there, great guy, Greg Jean, had worked on the original Star Trek, and worked on Close Encounters. You can IMDb him and see all the crazy stuff I did. But again, I would go talk to him, and I'd realize if it was the Indiana me, I would just be lockjawed and whatever.
Yeah. Well, like you said,
Yes.
whenever you were explaining to Aric and I that they did a lot of talking to you and everybody else about, you're going to see celebrities and stuff in here. This is the way you need to act.
Yes.
This is
Protocol.
Yes, protocol.
Job. Here's your daily protocol, and you even when you're on a plane, and you told us the stories about seeing people on a plane, and they just lean over and start talking to you, you're like, it's whatever, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Right. And now the funnier story, I gotta tell one last story that's kind of.
You tell as many as you want, man.
I'm
love it.
waiting for the story
this
of the
is great.
reaching to grab a paper when he's going on his 20-minute break.
What?
And you look up and you see so-and-so.
I remember that. You have to remind me who that was.
You go ahead, though.
This one was interesting because, again, it was the Air Force One wrap party. And they had it at the LAX. You've been to LAX, they have that big, they call it the theme building. It's the white kind of thing that looks like a spaceship almost.
Yeah.
And so the wrap party was there. And it was a great party, of course. Many things I can tell you. But who was at the party? I was talking to Richard Edlund, owner, boss, and this guy comes up, and it is literally Harold Ramis. And
what?
And I was like, literally,
wow.
It was one of the few times I've locked up and just just froze. This is Harold Ramis here, Stripes, Ghostbusters,
Oh man.
Groundhog Day. This is before Groundhog Day, I think, or maybe just after. This was just after Groundhog Day.
This was your
yes, and he was good friends
growing up.
Yeah,
man.
and he was great friends with Richard because they'd worked together on Ghostbusters, and they would also just done a show called Multiplicity, which Boss had done the effects for. So they were great friends, and I was just like, I can't stay here, I'm just going to geek out too much, I'm going to lock up, and I'm going to ask him all the stupid questions that any fanboy is going to do, and he's gonna hate me and it's gonna ruin his night. So I just kind of smiled and and then I walked away.
Yeah.
So then the next day at work, I get there, and the guy who sat next to me, Sarma Van Guri, this Indian guy, good friend of mine, who had gone to Texas A&M, and he's telling me about this time at the party. He's like, "Oh yeah, I spent all night talking to this guy who worked on Ghostbusters." I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, Harold Ramis was there, and I talked to him all night." I was like, "Oh my god." I could have sat there and talked to Harold Ramis all night.
And he wouldn't have been bothered.
And he wouldn't have been bothered. And instead, my cubemate did. So
I've done that stuff too, though. Like I went to a conference. It was a tattoo conference here a couple of years ago, and I had been following a bunch of these artists in the room, since I began.
right.
And I've seen them just get crazy good. Well, we have our portfolios reviewed at one point, and I sit there and I've got Josh. Aaron, let me think here. Anyway, I have Aaron sitting to my right, and I followed him for like 5 or 6 years, and I've wanted him to tattoo me numerous times. Well, I didn't even recognize him, right? I just think he's just Aric sitting there. I'm like, all right, cool. It's this guy, the guy that's going to do our review, and this girl. And he pulls his portfolio out, and I'm just like, what are you doing? And he's like, what? And I was like, you don't need any of this. And he's just like, he got a kick out of me, because I had my starstruck moment. But then they opened my portfolio up, and he's like complimenting all this stuff on these pieces, and I'm just sitting there like melting butter in my chair, like, oh, this is just awesome. But then after that moment, I realized, I was like, man, if I would have just breathed a little bit and calmed down and been able to talk through it, it would have probably been a cool experience.
Or a dry heave and
I mean, it was awesome
see?
though, and Aaron's super cool, man. Super nice guy, very down to earth,
And there's a lot of celebrities are like that. You can't go up and approach them like they're a celebrity. If you do that, they'll shut you off.
Turns them off, yeah.
If you go up and just behave normal, they're totally fine with that.
Yep.
because they're people.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
And they're just like,
I'm small town famous. I get it. I go to Walmart and people are like, oh, dude, no, and I'm like,
well, I get that.
I just want milk, man.
Right.
Just want
milk,
milk.
potatoes. Come on.
Well, JD, you really kind of are small town famous because you know how many times a day I get people asking, "Where's your tattoos?" And I tell them, and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, I gotta go in there. Yeah, he's doing this tattoo and this tattoo on this person," and I'm just like,
But that's
yeah.
it. I've
just say the
immersed myself
name.
in this area for so long.
I either say the name of your shop or I say your name. And they go, "Oh, the guy that had French voodoo dolls," or I say voodoo dolls.
Yeah.
I'm like, "It's J.D. Stafford. Yeah, he's doing this, and that." I'm like, Yeah, you want his card? Because I got a bunch of them.
I know. It's fun though. I mean, I love it that people love me and adore me, and they think that I'm cool or whatever.
Yeah, and
you
they
know,
love
even
me
if
and
they
adore
don't
me,
know me,
'cause
Yes.
they still
They
have
cool.
this perception of me. And I'm like, well, at least I'm holding a good perception, so let's at least keep it at that.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't let it go to my head because if I did that, everything would turn over on me. I mean,
Yeah.
eventually people will be like, oh, he's full of himself now.
Yes,
he
exactly.
made it big and now he's full of himself. But I
Big
haven't
head.
made it anywhere, really. I'm just Jasper, Indiana. Wow. All 15,000 of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Geez.
That's a
So-
lot.
So what are some of your hobbies, man? Like you do all this craziness on computers all the time and stuff. Like, what do you do to get away?
Too much. I could list the amount of drones I have.
Oh,
I could,
yeah.
I still play around with like Unreal Engine and some graphics on the side. Do a lot of electronics, 3D printing. Got a 3D printer. I'll print stuff
Yeah,
that
I
I
need to
design
come over
now.
and see that. That is very interesting.
Sitting on the ground right now next to my desk.
And guess what? We're gonna have to knock the dust off. And
There you go. Just random stuff. I've got too many hobbies. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Even during the pandemic, I started assembling plastic models again. Although that stopped. But it was one of those things where
Idle hands,
Exactly. I can't
he's
have
a
that.
cyclist.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, I go out on the bike every day. I just can't be idle. Boring is the worst thing to me.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people. What was that? The worst jobs I've had when there's nothing to do when you just get bored.
Yeah, it's a creation.
I would
game,
rather
I feel like.
exactly. I would rather quit and figure something else out than being paid to do nothing. It just encourages
Yeah.
bad things in me, and I just don't like doing it. But is what I do mostly now. I'm trying to think what is occupied the most time with it. Probably just doing some of the Unreal Engine stuff. Like I'll create like little environments to sit in, because during the pandemic you could not get outside readily at times. So I design little Zen environments so I can put in my VR headset. I can just sit there and put on some music.
Oh, dude,
Kinda like
it goes in the Oculus.
Exactly,
Holy shit.
like a virtual Zen garden, and you can build it all in Unreal
Dude,
Engine.
I've got to see some of this.
So you
Like
just-
that's cool.
Yeah.
So
That
you
is-
just
that
put on the
really
headset
is,
and you
yeah.
just sit there and
Have you ever
just,
heard of like Ben Ridgway or any of them guys? They create like a bunch of 3D crazy art. like
I've
that.
heard of them, yes, but
Uh,
I can't say I've seen it.
They do some.
I
really
feel like that
cool
would be
stuff.
something that you would just
Oh man, if I could
totally
like.
lose
Oh
yourself
my
in.
gosh.
Yeah, and it's great too because there's a couple of different ones. The Google released the one where you can do the 3D painting if you've ever seen that.
Yeah, where you can
Which is
actually.
super cool,
Yeah.
yes.
Like paint on
So-
windows? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, how big of a map can you create within that world?
Huge.
Is it endless?
It's endless. It's just like because Unreal Engine they use in video games. So any
Oh.
map you
gonna
see
say,
in video
like-
games, it's
Is that like the
big.
new?
Kinda.
Okay, Unreal Engine. Is that like the new PS5 or?
It runs on everything. There's even a version of Unreal Engine for the Switch. It's something that
Wow.
runs on every platform these
So
days.
it's a very strong.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
And it's-
everybody's using it.
Yes, and it's neat just because again you can pipe it in and just
Xbox One?
create your own world and just
That sounds
zen out in
neat,
it.
man. Like, wow.
And they have some built in, like Oculus has one built in where it's like a little home. So you have a couch and you have some artwork and you can just sit there. But I wanted a little more than that. I wanted some water, I want a little fountain, or you want some trees. I haven't got to the point of weather yet. That was my next big accomplishment, is try to get
Storms.
some storms in
Oh,
there, or some
man,
wind or something like
yeah.
that, because it'd just be fun and nice
And then
chilling.
eventually get you some fans that are automated to the
Exactly, yeah,
to the
exactly.
waves or whatever.
Right.
That's that was what I call like Ready Player One stuff right there.
Wow.
Right.
That would be freaking neat though.
Yeah.
That's
See
like
the
those.
trippy imaginative world that
Yeah.
you can
It just
create and be like, here,
It
take a
reminds
step
me
into
of
my mind.
Yes.
those. It's like a theater ride at like
Like
Kentucky Kingdom or
oh,
whatever. It's like in a theater, but the seats move
seats
and they
move,
have
yeah,
fans and
yeah.
mist. And,
Universal
they did that-
Studios
yeah,
type
yeah,
thing.
they did the like Sea World kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
everything.
Well,
I mean,
basically
sea
that-
stuff. The water's
Eventually, you're going to be
disgusting.
having that at home.
Yes,
I mean, yeah.
Disney used to have, what was it, Mission to Mars, and the seats would sink down,
Yeah.
everything would shake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
went to a dairy farm up north, further up past India. I can't think of the town exactly. They have a dairy farm up there, but you get to watch like a calf, or like in real life, and you get the water misting while you're watching a milk a cow.
gross.
And yeah, so
Wow.
yeah, that was
No
yeah,
thanks.
that
That's
kind
gross.
of made it not fun the first time. I'm like,
I would
oh, this
say.
is gonna be awesome. No, and then we got to see it in real life, which was
I wonder
cooler,
what the director thought of that. Like,
Yeah.
hey guys, we're gonna make
Let's
this
do this.
as real as we can.
Yeah.
And here's your placenta.
Freeze it if you
Oh.
want.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was all real life. It was the milking of the cow and the day in the life at the dairy farm.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a fun field trip.
It sounds like it.
Yeah,
Uh,
Oakland, Indiana, folks.
so your job's taken you all over the world, I'm sure. What are some of the coolest places across the world you've been to?
There's too many stories involved in a lot
I
of it.
know, right? Yeah.
I'll tell you my funnest one that's related to probably the craziest place I've been.
Okay.
And that is a good friend of mine that I worked with at Boss Film Places. The first place I worked in business. I'll only use his first name, Tom. He used to live up in Mandeville Canyon off LA. And I now know that's where a lot of studio execs live, but Tom lived up there as well. Jalen Rose, I think, actually rented his house after he sold it, he would be working at ESPN. But anyway, that's a side note.
That's great.
So he would throw a crazy party every
I'm
year.
a detective, be careful.
All right. There you go. So he would throw a crazy party every year, and sometimes like minor celebrities would show up. Gary Busey showed up one year. Kate Bosworth, the one chick from Blue Crush, showed up one year.
That's pretty cool.
But he would invite his neighbors because the party would be so loud.
Oh yeah.
So one of his neighbors, and you should Google this guy, is Peter Byrne. Peter Byrne happens to be the foremost expert on Bigfoot and the Yeti
Oh,
that you can
man.
imagine. So
Yes.
every year he would be at the party, and here's this party of 20-somethings,
Yeah.
and at this party would be Peter. And Peter's like, at the time, maybe 65-ish, 70-ish.
Oh, that's
And I would love chatting with him because he seemed like an interesting individual. And and it
get some stories out of
yeah,
it.
exactly. And I was totally right on the mark. And I'll tell you a couple more things about him in a second. But to go on with the story is every year he would say, or I'd tell him, because he would go to Nepal every year. He would take people on safari to Nepal. I would say, hey, if you ever have space on one of those trips, I want to go. So I told him this for 3 straight years.
Yeah.
I want to go to Nepal, I want to go to Nepal, but it just never happened because his tours were always booked. 2001 happened, and he didn't have any bookings that year, and so he told Tom, my neighbor, hey, if you guys really want to go to Nepal, I will take you to Nepal this year. So Tom calls me up and says, did you tell Peter you want to go to Nepal? I'm like, yes. I told him that at every party I've been to that Peter's been there, I want to go to Nepal. So he says, well, Tom says, Peter says he has space. If we want to go, we can go. So I was like all on board instantly. I'm like,
yeah,
the 3 of us are going, you know, there's Aric, Tom, and myself, we're all going. So we go through the whole summer of getting everything ready because you go to Nepal usually in November after the monsoon is over because monsoon is very bad. And we got to go to Nepal, flew into Kathmandu, and we went to western Nepal, which is where his hunting concession was. It's not a hunting concession anymore, it's more just eco-conservative, you know, looking for tiger and everything. We did not see a tiger, saw a giant leopard. But it was great, you know, it was an incredible experience. And it was just one of those things where the opportunity arose, and it's just like, you want to do things like that, you know, what are the chances you're going to get to ever do this again? Man. And I was just like, all right, I'm all on board for this. And it was amazing. It was 3 weeks of being in the jungle and looking for giant cats. And on the way, you had to go through Hong Kong and Bangkok and Kathmandu and all these crazy places that, you know, I love telling people before I went to New York a couple of years ago that, hey, I've been to Kathmandu, but I've never been to New York City. And then I beat that in 2019 by going to New York City and carrying a balloon in the Macy's parade. So I got to beat it by doing that. So that's how I beat New York.
That is jazzy.
But anyway, go back to Peter. Peter is, you know, you just run into these interesting characters. So Peter had been a tea planter after World War II in India, and he had run into the king of Nepal who had asked him to kill some man-eating tigers in Nepal. And so Peter went to Nepal and did that, and then as a reward, he got this concession from the king to hunt in western Nepal. So he would bring people over to hunt tiger in the 50s in Nepal.
Wow.
That's awesome.
It's crazy. And then in the 60s, when he realized that, hey, the tigers were getting hunted out by a lot of people, he went back to the king and said, you need to stop hunting tiger or else they're going to go away. And the king ended tiger hunting in Nepal.
That's
and again,
so
you
cool.
can go check him out. If you Google Peter Byrne, that's just the tip of the iceberg of his story.
Just the one man ended, like, possibly wiping out the tigers, dude. That's...
And he's a crazy...
I was just looking at a
so
little
awesome.
gist of that, and I was like,
yes.
well, I hope I'm looking at the right one, because the other one was a couple options. And
no, this
the other one was a questionable option. I'm like, I don't think so.
But anyway, so, you know, Nepal is one of those places. I had a horrible experience working in Australia for 2 months, even though Australia is amazing. I would love to go back to it at the drop of a hat. It was just kind of a weird experience, but whatever.
Not during that spider migration.
No, this was just it was Sucker Punch, the Zack Snyder movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a great director. I think he does action well, but it was just not the best run production, so it was very stressful on a lot of people, myself included. And it didn't help that they put us up in the red light district of Sydney. So it became like a 2 month...
Or maybe it did help some.
No, it did not.
Know.
It did not help at all. It just became a 2 month party. But, you know, I have never worked in London. I've been to Europe, but I've never worked in London. A lot of friends of mine work over there. Died to go over there. Never worked in Canada, even though a bunch of friends of mine work in Vancouver. But I've dragged a number of places. Australia, Nepal.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah,
That's nice.
Absolutely.
The only place outside the U.S. I've been is Jamaica.
There you go.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
You can join my sister. My sister, I don't think she's been in Orlando is her most exotic.
That's funny. Orlando is the exotic destination.
Yes.
Well, that's all right.
Did you go to EDC at any point in that time? Because it does get quite exotic.
I think I got one more question here. Basically, just the difference of lifestyle between living in LA and living in Santa Claus, Indiana.
It's just
Whoa, there's a chasm.
It's quite the change, you know. But I tell people now, out there and here, there's the Santa Claus me, and then there's the LA me.
Yeah.
Which one's happier? I think it's the Santa Claus me, but I'm not sure. Really.
You're more wild
You just have less,
whenever we
less
go out
options.
places. Here.
Yes, it's just different, you know. It's since I like to be really social, it's tough in Santa Claus because again, I will go to Casey's at 9:30 at night, even though I don't need anything.
You just need to talk.
I just need to say 5 words to the attendant at the gas station.
Casey's
I
gas
just need
station.
another
yeah.
somebody alive.
Exactly, and I will grab my drink and go. And where I lived in Los Angeles, you know, right by LAX, LAX is 24/7.
Oh,
If I wanted to grab something at 2:36 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, guess what? There's some 7-Eleven down the street is open.
And you could have talked to somebody
Exactly.
from any
Yeah, exactly.
part of the world.
Exactly,
You know,
exactly. But that's not the case in Santa Claus.
No, it's
It's-
definitely
You
not.
get
You
it
can
all
find
figured
Santa
out
himself.
Right.
early in the day, and
Yes, and I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, otherwise people talk about, oh, what about the people, or just the hecticness of it. And I always tell them, you know, I still think of Los Angeles as Evansville, believe it or not. I think of Sepulveda Boulevard as Greener Road. I think of the Lloyd Expressway as the 405. Because when you drive around Evansville, like when I used to go places, there's just parts of town you didn't go. You know, I don't know
Yeah.
anyone off Stringtown Road. I had no reason to ever go off Stringtown Road. Well, you have those places in Los Angeles, like I really don't know anyone in Hawthorne, I'm not going to Hawthorne.
Yeah.
So it just becomes a place you just pass when you drive somewhere else. So whether it's Hawthorne or whether it's Stringtown Road, I just, you know, there's places in town, you know people, you just go to those places. To me, it doesn't seem that different driving things. Now, style and everything else, yes,
Yeah.
different. Attractions, different. But, you know, and I'll still have those moments where I'll see, you know, Santa Monica left, Los Angeles right, and I just have that flashback to like, oh, wow, I'm looking in Los Angeles? Wait. Yeah.
not Jingle Bell Lane.
Exactly,
and,
not Melchior Drive and whatever.
Yeah.
But it is a bit of a culture shock, but not as much as you think at times. It's mainly just the people, you know, it's that LA has that vibe from so many people, whether it's something, whether there's something mental, psychic, telekinesis or something,
Yeah.
but having millions of people nearby as opposed to 5,000, you know, in
Yeah.
Santa Claus, I don't know, but it's, you just get used to it, you know, it's
And as far as you say the people are a lot different as well. Like here, it's obviously a lot more reserved.
It is, but you know what's funny is I know more of my neighbors living 6 months in Santa Claus than I did 20 years in my house in Los Angeles. I knew my neighbor on the left and I knew my neighbor on the right. Those are the only neighbors that I really ever knew. I would wave at other neighbors, but we really never talked.
Yeah.
Now I can name at least 4 of my neighbors and their kids. So, and that's only after 6 months of living here, so that tells you something. I mean, but again, having that many people encourages anonymity. You know, you don't have to, you know, when you're fewer people and you see each other all the time, yeah, you want to say hi and get to know them.
That's true.
But when you
Yeah.
run into 1,000 people, you know, and another stat I like to point out, population-wise, so where I lived in LA, within a mile of me, there was at least 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Within a mile of me in Santa Claus,
Yeah.
It's like
There's maybe
2,000.
2,000.
I was gonna say 100.
maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
so whatever.
Yeah, that whole. Because I
Just the
lived up by
village. I mean,
Yes.
just the village.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I lived up by Chicago, so you know, say something like you had your neighbors, you knew of your the old lady that lived across the street. Growing
Yes.
up, never knew her name.
Yep,
Never
exactly.
knew her name, and then I come down here and everybody knows me, and I'm this person's granddaughter and this person's
Yep.
daughter, and I'm like, oh.
That's another thing.
I don't. Word spreads more, and
Yep.
I do not like
I
about
don't
small
like that.
town is that you are everything that you've done up to this point. You know what I mean? And they know everything
Or
you've
every-
done up to this point. Whereas you go to a city, they don't know anything about you. All you are is a guy in a black shirt. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Like
Yep.
that's it. He's wearing a black shirt.
And that's why I try to, you know, literally up until I started doing the museum thing in Evansville, I totally flew under the radar. The only people that really knew what I was doing were direct friends of mine from Castle and my family.
And that was nice.
I
wasn't
liked keeping it that way. You know, what do you do? Oh, I just work in movies.
it? Right.
Yeah.
So, I never told them really the movies I worked on or whatever, other than my family and friends. So I kept it on the radar. And then I figured at some point you realize, if you want to help other people or inspire other people or whatever, and that's when the museum approached me and said, hey, you've done all this? Maybe you should do this. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that.
So what are you doing with the museum?
So we give her every year they put on like a little convention con, like the Comic-Con Convention Evansville. It's called.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I'll go speak at that
this.
and do things there, answer people's questions.
Okay.
I get people that come up that are interested in the field and just ask me about what I do, how they can learn stuff, things like that.
So do you get quite a few people that come up to you?
A few, definitely. I'll talk to anyone that comes up. Usually it's only not more than like 20 or 30.
Okay.
So, and we'll do panels on.
And is there people that actually know your background that come up to you? Have you had people be like, hey dude,
for sure,
good job on this and that, and then
for sure you can tell you can tell it's good, but you can tell that look a mile away. You can see somebody.
They're like,
because I've had that same.
And
I've had that same look before when I've met people too. I know
that's
that.
cool,
so
man.
Yeah.
But again, it's just fun to deal with them. And again, hey, if you need help, learning it. If you need help, how would I do?
That's the big thing. Is like trying to find people that are so damn good at what they do, but they're not wanting to sell you their freaking knowledge. Like,
no,
that's the big thing right now. Is everybody's selling everything. Like, I know a tattoo artist that sells the pictures of the tattoos that he finishes.
Right.
I'm like, dude, there's people on Instagram giving it away, and he's over here like, buy my Patreon if you want to see the finished tattoo. It's like, I don't care, man. Like, I'll go check out this nice free stuff. But I get the hustle. It's cool to see different hustles. Everybody's trying to find a different way in.
Right. And the whole thing too, if you've developed a level of knowledge that, required X number of years and, education and money that you've spent to get you to a certain level, if there is a product that, let's say, you came up with, or, like we were talking about earlier, the hack of how to get it in quicker, is that something that you can monetize? It's really dependent on whether you're trying to just be...
personally, I don't think I ever would have enough knowledge to feel like I could truly charge somebody for what I know, because the things that I do know are just bits and pieces of a lot of stuff that I've culminated together. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
I don't know a textbook. I do not know any textbook in the world, but I could tell you maybe like 5 articles out of it and bits and pieces of those articles.
Sure, right.
And then from that I can piece together what I need to know, but I can't. That's the hard thing with me teaching people how to tattoo even. It's like, I don't know how to teach a feeling.
And if I don't know how to teach that, why should I charge?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, your job, it's like all about pressure and direction and literal hands-on.
Well, around here, the more
and
people I teach, the more people I have taking out of my wallet, because they're going to pop up their own shop.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Whereas it's a very tight-knit market. It's a lot harder to kind of squeeze in.
Yep.
But are you seeing it more easy for people to kind of come out of their house just doing crazy stuff for fun and then getting caught?
There are, but again, there's just so much. There's so much work that it really is not going to matter.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing where, all right, Bob in his garage can do some shots, but I don't mind that. Maybe he can do some good stuff, maybe he can't. It doesn't really matter to me because there's just so much to be done.
Exactly.
So,
and that's another thing I get on too. I get people asking me. There's 3 tattoo shops in Jasper now, and they're like, "Well, are you worried about the competition?" I'm like, "Man, if I'm worried about the competition, I'm going to lose what I got going on." So I kind of have to keep my own wheels turning, and they're going to keep theirs turning too, or they're going to. It's sink or swim, man. I mean,
you'll excel or you won't excel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's cool though that you give out information, for free, and you want to help people grow, because I'm sure that's a good feeling for you now. Now you probably get more seeing somebody that you've helped out, and then they come up in the world
and do amazing stuff,
and you're like, yes.
Exactly. It's cool because most of them are pretty good people. I think they all are actually.
Yeah.
But you see people you work with that. Oh my God, I worked with that guy, 20 years ago, and now he's collecting an Oscar. It's a great feeling, and it's just, at some point I think everyone realizes that it's not about holding other people down; it's about helping other people up.
Yeah.
And whether that's on your shoulders or whatever, it's definitely a rewarding feeling.
Yeah.
most of the people with my job, I tell them to run before they start, and once when they all listen to me, and then I'm like,
I can
okay,
vouch
well,
for
you know, I
that.
gotta help you out, and I end up helping them out, and then they go, oh my gosh, I should have ran. I'm like, yep, I told you, but here we are,
Yep, here we
sinking
are.
together.
For sure, yeah.
Got anything, Eric?
Boy, everything that you've talked about is right along the same lines as what I have. So, yeah.
I had to write down
It's,
stuff before you guys got here real quick. I
Of
threw out
course, yeah,
stuff. I was like,
yeah.
man, I need to put down some key points because I wormhole on conversation a lot.
Oh, yeah,
and
for sure.
then just we tunnel and tunnel and tunnel.
Oh, yeah.
usually.
We do, yes we do.
But it's a good thing. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like what I was showing you earlier on the
Right.
phone, like with not being in LA working, being able to do your job here and not being able to have like experiences like shopping moments,
Right.
celebrity encounters that you don't expect, like those
Yeah.
are, it's like
It's not too, you know,
it's not you can live without it, but it's
right. It's one of those things where it really, there was no huge appeal to it for me unless it's something I really, you know, like I said,
Like the
Running-
Ghostbusters.
exactly.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
you know, I was working at Digital Domain on a company called Digital Domain on that Fast and the Furious and ended up holding the door for Harrison Ford and Steven Spielberg. It's things like that, you know, yeah, that's great and all. I'm so happy it happened. But is
Right.
it something you know, it's not going to happen here, but, you know,
Yeah.
that's necessarily a bad thing or thing I missed? Maybe, but not really. And, you know, like I said, I could tell you any number of cool run-ins. Like, my favorite thing that I'll tell everyone about, there's a lot I've had that I don't care to talk about.
Yeah.
But I love
because they're
seeing,
just
yes,
For
but
us, it would be like, oh, but
like,
you, it's
I love, and you can find it on my Facebook, Gene Simmons is a film producer too.
Yeah.
And he was doing Detroit Rock City, I think was the movie.
Yeah.
And he was over at the facility and literally they mailed out and said, if anyone wants a picture with Gene Simmons, you can come down after the production meeting and get your picture taken with Gene Simmons.
Yeah.
So of course,
there you
I got my
are.
picture taken with Gene Simmons.
That's right.
And not only did he get my picture taken with Gene Simmons, he grabbed my face. And
Yes.
so I have a picture of Gene Simmons grabbing my face, which instantly I washed my face of course, 100 times. But again, I loved it. You know, there's just some people you run across that are just that great.
Yeah.
And
That's
I will miss that at some point eventually if I'm always here. But whatever, it happened, and I'm happy about it, but whatever.
But you don't necessarily need those experiences to
Exactly.
keep
You
going with
had
what you're
those,
doing.
yeah.
You have,
Exactly.
yeah.
I tell-
You have them.
The other
so.
thing when people ask me that, you know, kids will ask me, you know, what's it like when you see a celebrity? You know, what's it like when you see Tom Hanks or something like that? I've only seen him once. But anyway, what happens when it's like that? And like, well, just look at the person next to you.
Yeah.
How did you feel like when you saw them? Because guess what? They're a person. It's just like that.
Yeah.
They may be more popular. They may be, you know, an actor, a musician, or whatever. It's a person.
And
That's
that's,
why I saw
that's the
Reese
thing most people don't
die.
realize, though. The more things are thrown in your face,
Right.
the more you're apt to idolize it and put it on a pedestal.
Exactly.
You know,
Mhm.
whereas you look at them as, well, there's a contract worker.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
they are. They are contract labor right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bam.
Everybody's part of that same overall machine that ends up producing
Exactly.
and, you know,
Mhm.
developing that movie. And
But that's cool because that's the part that sells these movies and stuff. These people have this. I don't know. Well, it's like, well, DreamWorks, like you said, they try and stay in the middle of the road. They're selling that. What am I trying to think of? Word here.
I wouldn't say image
It's just
specifically.
Yeah, it's kind of
It's
like
like
an
an
image,
image,
but
but
yeah,
Persona, not
yeah.
persona really, but yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. People are buying onto that, and
Yes.
that's that's pretty cool how much of an effect that has, though. And then how or anybody who's on the inside of something, they're just like, they see it for what it truly is. And that's the thing that I think keeps the magic up for all these people, though. They don't see the inside, so the magic's still there.
Exactly. Who does that?
Exactly. Like, now I understand how the contract, somewhat how the director goes from all that. Like, how that works now. 'Cause
vision to finished
I
product.
had no
Oh, yeah.
clue, man.
I
I
did.
was like, what is the logistics of this?
I was amazed that, you know, working on Air Force One, they would give us shoot schedules, even though we were really post-production.
Yeah.
But they were shooting it at the same time, so we get a shoot schedule. And I would see that and going, what? they don't shoot a movie in order from the first shot to the last shot?
No.
That's not how they film things?
Really?
Oh, yeah, totally.
They just do it by convenience, or
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, really. Yeah.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
in shock by that. I was just like, oh my God, they don't do it like that. And
Wow, because you think you would get lost a little.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in my own experience, I'd be
Yeah.
like, okay, well, we got these scenes.
We got page 137, 92, and 86
Yeah.
today, and then tomorrow.
It's funny to hear that though at the level, that high of a level, that it really mirrors like my little experience with independent movies, because we never film things from start to finish either. Let's say even like a web series that I was on, we may be filming episode 9 of a web series before we ever film episode 1, or just little chunks of episode 11 before we get to 10. Nothing is in that sequential order, at all. At all. Lots of times, especially at that much lower level, it's just the availability of everybody that can be on it, the actors, and who could be here this day when they're off work. Can everybody be there on a Sunday? Well, not necessarily. This person has to work and they need to be in that shot.
Now,
somebody could be sick.
But now, did they have movies always been filmed this way, or because back in the day when they?
No, always been filmed this way. I
Really?
mean, just how it worked out. They have here's where their scenes are. Their locations. Here's the hours we have to shoot because the time of day and everything matters, and we'll just schedule it accordingly. And back in the day when actors would work at different studios, a funny little LA thing. There's a road called Motor, and Motor goes between Sony lot, which used to be the MGM lot, and the Fox lot, which were the two big lots back in like the 40s and 50s. And there's a road between them called Motor. So the term motoring meant that you were a megastar that were working at both studios, Fox and Sony. So if you're motoring, you're going back and forth. Well, they had to know that then to know that, we only have this actress for this time. We have to shoot this because they're gone, so somebody else to do that.
Jeez.
So it's crazy.
I could not imagine the stress on the people scheduling this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Holy jeez.
I can tell you another funny story about that, but we'll say that for a minute.
Okay.
And there's the cliffhanger right there. Yes, so we will have another installment of the JD and Eric's podcast with Kent Estep.
How much we got there?
We're
at 2 hours.
An hour 52. Yeah, we're pretty close to 2 hours. So I think we're at
That's a lot of content. Dude, you talked right through it.
Oh, yeah. I haven't even told you the half.
Oh, I know.
That's why we need another episode.
But the amount of content you gave us today is enough. Eric can chop that up. There's so many stories there. So many good little 10-minute deals.
I'm trying to tell my favorite Matrix story working at that base.
Yes.
Matrix.
Let's hear a favorite Matrix
So
story.
it was an old military base. And all the manhole covers all around this base were welded shut with radioactive symbols on it. Because when the radioactive carriers would come back, they would discharge their wastewater into the sewer there. So basically, all under the base was all just irradiated. And so we would break into other parts of the base to get things because they would say, we need a new desk or we need a new table. Oh, this building's got desks, this building has tables. So we go in some of these buildings, and I have a picture of it, I can send it to you. They'd have the radiation warning stickers, this thing across the door that says, do not open, radiation hazard. So of course we took a picture and then broke it. I didn't see it. So anyway, one time we were there, and we broke into what used to be the base hospital. And in the base hospital was also the base pharmacy. And what was left over in the pharmacy that I grabbed were a roll of stickers that were meant to go on pill bottles. So you can imagine the ones that were on there.
Oh, you had all
So I would go around and put those stickers, being the youngster I was, on various things. So in the conference room where we have our conference calls with Australia with Joel Silver, who is the producer of The Matrix, we have our meetings in that room, and there's a bunch of pencils and pens you could write with. So I put a bunch of these stickers on those pencils and pens. So one day we're in there having a conference call, and Joel Silver's a kind of a hothead. And he's talking, people are talking, and I look across at my friend who's taking notes, and all of a sudden he looks at the pen, and on this pen I had put the sticker that said, for rectal use only. And I see his face just kind of stop, and kind of like hold the pen. And then he snaps back into the whole conversation and starts writing again.
Well,
But-
those stickers catch your eye because they're bright.
Yes.
Yeah.
Green
And what's
blue.
funny is the symbol for it looked like a floppy disk. Like if you remember floppy disks back in the day,
Yeah.
because what it is two
It's
legs.
Yeah, legs. Yeah. The butt cheek. Yeah.
Listen, I have a lot of those
Yes,
at work.
there you go.
If you
No.
want a few
Oh,
stickers,
keep the
Uh,
legacy
full-
living.
yeah.
there's
Full
still
time soak.
a whole
Yes.
case.
And the other last one of that was we had a whole huge problem with water on the base, and because they canceled the bottled water collection, and the guy was filling it from the tap surreptitiously. So I had put on the water bottle, the water cooler, may cause discoloration of urine. So anyway, that's what I love. That's what became of those stickers. I love it.
Those
That's
stickers,
awesome.
you know,
You still have any?
I do not.
No.
I can get a bunch
Yeah,
easily.
but they're great.
Super
Yeah.
easily. The rectal ones are fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Discoloration.
need a roll of those.
Yeah, they're about like yay long, about that
They're
wide.
gonna be all
they're
over the
really
shop.
they're really tiny. Yeah, you can fit them like in little inconspicuous spots.
well, you know, Kent, it's funny that you say that because all the years that I've worked in pharmacy, you know, as we're talking about, if anybody had a banana that they brought in to eat, yep, you're going to put that for rectal use only sticker on their banana, or, you know, for vaginal use only.
Yeah.
If, you know, for whatever reason they had any phallic looking fruit or vegetable, cucumber, not that many people bring a full cucumber into the pharmacy.
Right.
You never know. Brenda likes
You
her
gotta-
salads.
you gotta, yeah.
And
Make
it's
sure they
fun
get
to
that
waste them
sticker.
on things like that because the labels, they print them on there. All that stuff's on your label
Mm-hmm.
now. So it's like, okay, so what do we do with these stickers? All right, find things to stick them on that
That's
somebody's going to get mad
Yep.
about.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you ready to
For-
wrap it up, or
Yeah, for our first installment with Kent, I think we have
Yes.
covered a lot of bases.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
we really appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely.
Jess.
Oh
thanks
yeah,
for the
Jess was here
company.
for a little while.
Jess.
And if people want to find you, they can find you on social media if you want them to
Yeah.
follow you, or you don't want them to follow you.
don't-
Nope.
You don't
Doesn't
want to worry
really
about all
matter.
that.
Yeah,
Doesn't
okay.
really matter.
Okay, well that's cool.
He's not here for the fame, guys.
He's not here for the
I
fame,
was
but-
part of the Sony hack, so my,
Oh my God,
social
well, it was my
security
fault.
number and home addresses and salary
Okay,
are all out there
we'll
somewhere.
cut that part out. I didn't mean to put you out there like that. We'll just chalk that
all the
off.
North Koreans know that.
Yeah, they know how to find you on social media, so hashi would some but
It sounded like something.
That sounded real. That was
Yeah,
legit.
well,
You had a good roll off the tongue there. All right. Well, I guess we're gonna wrap it up.
That will be a wrap, folks. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.